Mysterious footage found by forest rangers. In a startling discovery, grainy footage from the early 2000s was recently uncovered by forest rangers. The footage, stored on a deteriorating camera, appears to capture a lone hiker running in a panic through dense woodland. As the camera shakes and shifts wildly, several shadowy figures can be seen in pursuit. These figures are dressed in dark, hooded cloaks, their faces completely obscured, moving swiftly and silently through the underbrush. Those who have seen the footage describe it as unsettling. The fear in the hiker's voice and the urgency of his movements suggest that he was being hunted. Some viewers speculate that he may have accidentally stumbled upon something he was never meant to see, possibly a secret ritual, hidden encampment, or covert operation. This tourist captured a mysterious photograph inside a traditional Japanese house. A mysterious and unsettling photograph captured by Katrina Paraiso has quickly become a topic of fascination among paranormal enthusiasts online. Shared widely across social media and among groups dedicated to investigating unexplained phenomena, the image has been labeled by many as one of the creepiest. What makes it so disturbing isn't just the content itself, but the circumstances under which it was taken, an ordinary moment that turned into something far more chilling. Katrina Paraiso, a Filipino tourist visiting Japan, was doing what countless travelers do, documenting her trip with casual selfies. She was staying alone in a traditional Japanese home and decided to take a photo of herself inside. At first glance, the image seemed unremarkable, dimly lit, quiet, and personal. However, it wasn't until later, when she reviewed the photo and brightened it for clarity, that she noticed something deeply unsettling. In the background, near the floor behind her, was what appeared to be a round, dark shape. Upon lightening the image, the vague shape took on a more horrifying form. What Paraiso had unknowingly captured looked like a human lying on the floor. The head had wild, tangled hair and a chilling, contorted expression, its face appearing to stare directly at the camera. Most disturbingly, Katrina insisted she was completely alone in the house at the time the photo was taken. There was no one else present, no guest, no family member, no staff, who the head could have possibly belonged to. The image quickly made its way into the hands of paranormal investigators and social media communities dedicated to unexplained events. While some attempted to debunk the photo by attributing it to shadows, reflections, or even photo editing, others believed the photograph offered compelling evidence of something supernatural. The eerie detail, the unmistakable face, and the haunted expression seen only after enhancing the image has left viewers deeply unsettled. Many viewers claim the face in the photo is far too detailed and defined to be a trick of the light. Adding to the mystery is the cultural context. Traditional Japanese homes, especially older ones, are steeped in centuries of folklore involving spirits and restless souls. Stories of haunted guest houses, vengeful ghosts, and other spiritual entities are common in Japanese mythology, further fueling theories about what Paraiso might have captured. Despite various efforts to analyze or explain the photo, no definitive conclusion has been reached. Katrina Paraiso remains firm in her account, stating clearly that she was alone and that she had no explanation for the mysterious figure captured behind her. As of now, the image remains an unsolved mystery, a chilling reminder that sometimes even the most mundane moments can reveal something beyond our understanding. Mysterious photograph captured at dinner. A chilling photograph shared to Reddit by user DIY Gardening has captured the attention of thousands, sending shivers down the spines of those who stumbled across it. The image, intended to simply commemorate a joyful Easter gathering among friends, has become something far more unsettling. Posted under the unassuming context of a holiday memory, the photo quickly made its way into paranormal and mystery forums. What was meant to be a candid moment of celebration appears to have captured something, or someone, who was not invited. At first glance, the picture is nothing out of the ordinary. It shows a group of friends standing together, smiling, surrounded by Easter food and decorations. It's the kind of warm, festive scene that most people would post without a second thought. But as the viewer's eyes drift toward the background, a disturbing detail becomes evident. Behind the group is a mirror, and within that mirror is a face that doesn't belong to anyone present. What appears in the reflection is a figure, a shadowed face, eerily human, but deeply unnatural, peering from just behind the group. The face appears pale and mask-like, with long hair hanging on either side. It has an almost frozen expression, as if caught mid-stare, watching the scene unfold before it. The figure is not visible in the main scene of the photo, only in the mirror's reflection. This detail has caused considerable debate among viewers. If it were a person physically present in the room, logic suggests that they should be visible in the actual gathering, not just in the mirrored image. The lack of any indication of the figure outside the reflection adds to the eerie atmosphere and raises questions about what exactly was captured. The fact that no one at the party noticed anything unusual at the time only deepens the mystery. As with many ghost photographs, the disturbing presence was only realized after the fact, once the photo had been taken and shared. Speculation about the identity or nature of the figure has ranged from logical to paranormal. Some suggest it may have been a trick of lighting or a digital anomaly. Others propose more chilling theories, that it could be the spirit of a former resident, a manifestation of negative energy, or even a harbinger of some unknown presence. The mask-like appearance of the face is particularly unsettling, evoking images of faceless entities or masked intruders, both familiar symbols in horror folklore and paranormal reports. For the people in the photo, discovering the image must have been terrifying. What began as a harmless snapshot of a holiday celebration is now immortalized online as one of the more disturbing unexplained images to circulate on Reddit in recent memory. It stands as a stark reminder of how the ordinary can become extraordinary and terrifying when viewed through the right lens. The Tanganyika laughter outbreak. The Tanganyika laughter case of 1962 remains one of the most mysterious and fascinating cases of mass psychogenic illness in recorded history. What began as an innocent episode of laughter in a schoolgirl quickly spiraled into an uncontrollable wave of laughter and emotional disturbances that swept through several communities in what is now modern-day Tanzania. To this day, the phenomenon defies clear explanation, blurring the lines between psychology, sociology, and human behavior under pressure. The outbreak began at a mission-run boarding school for girls in the village of Kashasha on January 30th, 1962. A student suddenly began laughing for no apparent reason. Her laughter, rather than subsiding, grew more intense. Within a short time, other girls began to join in, laughing uncontrollably without provocation. The laughter spread rapidly, affecting 95 of the 159 students at the school. Teachers were unable to control the situation, and the emotional contagion grew so severe that the school was eventually forced to close. However, the closure of the school did not bring an end to the strange phenomenon. In fact, it only helped it to spread. As the girls returned to their home villages, the laughter outbreak began affecting other schools and communities. It soon reached the villages of Nshamba, Kanyangareka, and Bukoba, and ultimately infected nearly 1,000 people. 14 schools had to shut down for extended periods, some for months, as students continued to experience symptoms. These were not limited to laughter alone. In many cases, individuals reported episodes of weeping, fainting, panic, and even physical symptoms such as rashes and pain, though no medical or environmental cause could be identified. One of the most puzzling aspects of the Tanganyika laughter case was the duration of its symptoms. Laughter or crying fits could last from a few hours to an astonishing 16 days. Victims also displayed signs of restlessness and aimless running. Yet doctors found no evidence of any organic illness or environmental toxin that could explain the bizarre behavior. The fact that the condition appeared to spread through social contact further puzzled researchers. Experts have since labeled the outbreak as a case of mass hysteria. This condition typically emerges in environments of high stress and low outlets for emotional expression. In Tanganyika at the time, social upheaval was widespread. The rapid social change, combined with pressures on school children and tightly structured community life, may have created the psychological conditions ripe for such an outbreak. Despite theories and modern psychological insights, the Tanganyika laughter case remains a mystery. The disappearance of Julia Ann Bean. Julia Ann Bean, a 36-year-old woman, went missing on May 31, 2017, in Sumter, South Carolina. Her disappearance occurred shortly after she was spotted in the company of an unidentified male individual. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance raise numerous questions. Julia Ann Bean, a woman born on May 2, 1981, has the important role of being a mother to 3 children. Bean's friends and relatives have revealed that during the period when she went missing, she was grappling with personal challenges. Furthermore, her daughter recollected instances where various men provided her with money. In Sumter, South Carolina, on the fateful day of May 31, 2017, Julia Ann Bean, a woman in her prime, was last sighted by her concerned daughter in the vicinity of Red Bay Road. This particular day held promises of mother-daughter bonding, as they had eagerly planned to indulge in a pampering session at the local nail salon. However, as fate would have it, Bean arrived at the establishment accompanied by an unfamiliar gentleman, who was in charge of maneuvering a somber-looking dark truck. The gentleman informed his daughter about his ownership of multiple lake houses and large boats, extending an invitation for her to host a boat party whenever she desired. Furthermore, he expressed his willingness to accompany her to a concert, and even expressed his desire to marry Bean. Bean's daughter, whose high school graduation was just a day away, generously handed over a pair of tickets to a man, enabling him to be a part of the momentous ceremony alongside Bean. This act of kindness exemplifies the strong bond between Bean's daughter and the man. Bean failed to make an appearance at her daughter's momentous graduation ceremony and has remained elusive ever since, with no communication being established. On the 18th of November, in the year 2017, the family of this individual took the necessary step of submitting a report to the Sumter Police Department, expressing their concern over her sudden disappearance. Bean inadvertently forgot to bring along her wallet, cell phone and keys when she left her house. In terms of financial resources, she possessed a substantial amount of $5,000 deposited in her bank account, in addition to an undisclosed amount of cash kept inside her purse. At the time when Bean went missing, she did not possess a mobile phone. There are suspicions of foul play surrounding the mysterious disappearance of Julia Ann Bean. The exact details of her disappearance are still unclear, and as a result, her case is currently labelled as a missing persons case. This unsettling situation remains unresolved, leaving unanswered questions and lingering concerns. The mysterious disappearance of Jackson Brent Garcia. Jackson Brent Garcia, an 18-year-old individual, went missing on December 26, 2020, in Sumter County, South Carolina. The last known sighting of him was on Ithaca Drive, where he left his cousin's residence that evening. When Garcia vanished, he was residing in Sumter, South Carolina, alongside his grandmother. It is worth noting that he is commonly known by the nickname Brent. This mysterious disappearance has raised many questions and demands a thorough investigation. According to his family, who depict him as a compassionate and family-centric individual, it is highly atypical for Brent to disappear without reaching out to anyone. On the auspicious day of December 25, 2020, Jackson Brent Garcia commenced the morning in the delightful company of his cherished family, indulging in the joyful merriment of Christmas festivities and eagerly unwrapping the thoughtfully exchanged presents. Between the hours of 4 and 5:30 in the afternoon, Garcia engaged in separate telephone conversations with both his brother and grandmother. During these interactions, he communicated to them that he was currently occupied with playing games at his cousin's residence and assured them of his imminent return to his own home. Following his failure to return home, Garcia's grandmother made several attempts to reach out to him, endeavoring to establish contact. Despite her persistent efforts, Garcia chose not to answer the phone, leaving his grandmother in a state of worry and concern. In the evening of December 26, 2020, Garcia was sighted for the last time by his cousin at his residence situated on Ithaca Drive in Sumter, South Carolina. This particular sighting occurred while both of them were spending time outdoors with their family pet. At approximately 7 in the evening, his cousin responsibly brought the dog indoors and headed back into the house. However, upon entering, they realized that Garcia, the dog, was mysteriously missing from sight. This sudden disappearance left everyone perplexed and concerned about his whereabouts. According to the available information, Garcia, unfortunately, did not return home, and there have been no updates or communication from him since then. It is worth noting that although his cousin did not witness his departure, it is widely believed that Brent left his location on foot. On the 28th of December in the year 2020, the mother of the individual took the initiative of filing a report concerning their disappearance. During the investigation into the disappearance of Jackson Brent Garcia, authorities have received numerous reports detailing sightings of him around the time he went missing. Authorities in the vicinity where Garcia was last spotted carried out extensive searches, employing aerial surveillance, foot patrols, and the utilization of highly trained K-9 units. According to statements from his family, Garcia had a documented history of anxiety. It is worth noting that his struggles with these conditions were well known among his loved ones. Unfortunately, prior to his disappearance, Garcia neglected to bring along his prescribed medications, which were crucial for stabilizing his health. Following an extensive investigation, law enforcement authorities were unable to uncover any substantive evidence, methods, or motives associated with the mysterious disappearance of Jackson Garcia. Brent's Army, Crime Stoppers, and the Sumter Police Department have come together to offer a substantial reward of $10,000 to anyone who can provide crucial information that will assist in locating Brent. The circumstances of Jackson Brent Garcia's disappearance remain unclear, and his case is currently classified as missing. His case remains unsolved. The mystery of Tabitha Goins. Tabitha Goins, a 39-year-old woman, went missing in Fayetteville, North Carolina on November 24, 2019. Tabitha, who is a mother of 4, vanished without a trace, causing great concern for her family. In the early hours of November 24, 2019, specifically around 12:30, Tabitha departed from the place of residence where she had been staying. While strolling through the dense woods, Tabitha found herself trailing behind her boyfriend. As he abruptly spun around to face her, a wave of confusion washed over him as he realized she had vanished from the area. During that moment, Tabitha was clad in a sleek black zip-up jacket paired with trendy leopard print leggings and completed her outfit with a fashionable combination of grey and orange Nike Air Max sneakers. Dennis Lessersane, the boyfriend of Tabitha, had the unfortunate distinction of being the final individual to have sight of her prior to her mysterious disappearance. According to his account, he claims that he was apprehended by the alcohol law enforcement on the same night she disappeared. He further explains that during the raid, they sought refuge in the nearby woods, where unfortunately, he lost sight of her amidst the chaos. Subsequently, he decided to seek assistance by making a call at one of the neighboring houses in order to arrange for someone to come and pick him up. In light of her disappearance, Lessersane opted against consenting to a polygraph examination and promptly sought legal representation. During an extensive search conducted by the authorities in the vicinity, an important discovery was made consisting of Tabitha's eyeglasses, which she was identified as wearing. On the 23rd of December in the year 2019, law enforcement officials actively carried out a search warrant at a private dwelling located in her apartment block. As part of their efforts to shed light on her sudden disappearance, they urged members of the public to immediately contact the emergency services hotline if they possess any valuable information relating to her disappearance. In the month of February in the year 2020, there occurred an altercation involving Dennis Lessersane and Tabitha's estranged husband, Anthony Goins. Deputies promptly arrived at the scene following an urgent call. Upon their arrival, they discovered Dennis with visible cuts on both his face and neck, necessitating immediate medical attention. It was determined that his injuries required surgical intervention, and he was expeditiously transported to the hospital to undergo a specialized procedure for the purpose of effectively repairing the aforementioned lacerations. According to Lessersane, he encountered Tabitha's estranged husband while driving along Highway 87 South, prompting him to pull over and engage in a conversation with him. Lessersane provided this information to the authorities, who were investigating the situation. After engaging in a leisurely drive and engaging in conversation, Zeitoun steered the vehicle towards the BP station located on Sand Hill Road. At this juncture, Goins, with an unexpected turn of events, produced a box cutter and proceeded to inflict harm upon Zeitoun. The incident was swift, leaving Zeitoun in a state of disbelief. In a significant turn of events, Goins found himself facing law enforcement. According to Tabitha's father, he holds the conviction that the incident is connected to her disappearance. Furthermore, his family firmly believes that Zeitoun possesses additional information regarding Tabitha's vanishing that he has not disclosed to the authorities. The exact whereabouts and the specific details surrounding the disappearance of Tabitha are still a mystery to this day. Despite exhaustive investigations, no individuals have been identified as suspects or persons of interest in relation to her vanishing. The disappearance of Deianne Warner. Deianne Warner, a 52-year-old woman, went missing under mysterious circumstances in Franklin Township, Michigan, on April 25, 2021. The disappearance occurred right after a tense and emotionally charged argument with her husband, raising concerns about her well-being and safety. Deianne Warner, a native of Michigan, entered this world on June 30, 1968. Growing up amidst the tranquility of Lenawee County, a close-knit farming community that has been her family's home for 5 generations, she developed a deep connection to her roots. This remarkable individual holds a profound history that spans generations, shedding light on the close-knit fabric of her community. In the year 2006, Dee entered into matrimony with Dale John Warner, whom she encountered during her employment at a nearby firm engaged in agricultural sales. It is noteworthy that the union between Dee and Dale resulted from their professional association within the same industry. At the moment Dee went missing, she resided with her husband and daughter in a cozy residence situated on the peaceful Munger Road in Tecumseh, Michigan. It was within the vicinity of this serene abode that Dee diligently operated her own trucking and farming enterprise, utilizing the barns located at the back of her property. In the evening of April 24, 2021, Deianne Warner had made arrangements to engage in a heartfelt conversation with her husband, Dale Warner, pertaining to the difficult decision of separating or ending their marriage. The intention was to discuss the challenges in their relationship and possibly explore different paths going forward. At precisely 8:34 in the evening, a trusted family friend, who had kindly offered to look after their daughter over the weekend, arrived to pick her up. On that particular evening, Dee and her spouse engaged in a passionate disagreement centered around her business matters and a specific employee named Todd Nayrink, whom she had a previous altercation with earlier in the day. At precisely 10:52 in the evening, Dee found her phone buzzing with an incoming text message from a dear friend who expressed genuine concern. The message inquired about Dee's well-being and sought to ascertain how she was doing. By the conclusion of the evening, as reported by Dale Warner, the couple was able to resolve their differences and reconcile. A moment of serenity ensued when Dee, feeling the soothing effects of a massage, drifted off to sleep on the living room floor. Displaying tenderness and care, Warner gently lifted her and placed her on the couch before retiring for the night. According to reports on April 25, 2021, Dee was still in a slumber on the couch when her husband departed for work at 6:30 in the morning. In the morning, approximately at 9, Dee's grown-up daughter, along with her boyfriend and daughter, arrived at Deianne Warner's house in anticipation of their usual Sunday morning tradition of having breakfast together. However, to their surprise, Deianne Warner was conspicuously absent from her home. Deianne Warner, who left her home and has not been in contact since, remains missing. Concerned for her safety and well-being, her family took immediate action and formally reported her disappearance to the authorities at the Lenawee County Sheriff's Office. Deianne Warner mysteriously vanished, leaving behind her purse and cell phone. Interestingly, she left behind 2 vehicles, both of which were discovered neatly parked. One vehicle was found inside the garage of her residence, while the other was located at her office, only a mere 100 feet away. This puzzling disappearance raises numerous questions and instigates a deeper investigation into the circumstances surrounding her absence. During the night of April 24th, at around 11 in the evening, her mobile phone transitioned from being connected to Wi-Fi to relying on cellular service. However, by 2:30 in the morning, the phone completely lost power and became inoperable. Since that particular night, there has been no activity observed on her phone records, bank account, or social media platforms. Dale Warner held the belief that his wife, Deianne Warner, had departed that morning in the company of another man and had subsequently travelled outside the country. However, despite thorough scrutiny of surveillance footage, there was no visual evidence of Deianne Warner leaving the premises. Furthermore, it was discovered that her passport had not been utilised during this period. In their relentless pursuit of locating Deianne Warner, authorities painstakingly carried out numerous search operations, utilising a wide range of resources and techniques. Helicopters scoured the skies, drones meticulously surveyed the area, radar systems scanned for any signs of her presence, and foot patrol teams tirelessly combed through the surroundings. As per the accounts provided by her family, Dee had made up her mind to initiate divorce proceedings and liquidate the business prior to her unexplained vanishing. It has been reported that she had been subjected to physical abuse by her spouse on numerous occasions, which compelled her to devise an escape plan from his clutches. On the date of August 9th, 2022, the Michigan State Police made an official statement declaring their assumption of control over the ongoing investigation into the mysterious disappearance of Deianne Warner. In this complex case, they identified Dale John Warner as a person of interest, thus indicating a potential connection to the events surrounding his wife's vanishing. In September 2022, it was publicly disclosed that the offspring and close associates of Dee took the initiative to submit a formal request with the objective of legally confirming the occurrence of Dee's demise. There are suspicions of foul play surrounding the disappearance of Deianne Warner. To aid in the search for Deianne Warner, her family has established a reward of $50,000, which will be provided to anyone who can provide information leading to the location and discovery of Deianne Warner. The details surrounding Deianne Warner's vanishing are still shrouded in mystery, leaving her case classified as a missing persons investigation. Despite extensive efforts, the circumstances of her disappearance continue to elude authorities, rendering her case unsolved. The mystery of the Hopkinsville Goblin. It is believed that the Hopkinsville Goblin is an extraterrestrial species of unknown origin that was first encountered in the United States, in the small town of Hopkinsville, located in the state of Kentucky. The creature is not an individual entity, but rather a collection of similarly described humanoid figures that were encountered by the residents of the Sutton farmhouse, located nearby the town of Kelly in Christian County and the town of Hopkinsville. The creatures were described as being between 2 to 4 feet tall and possessing large pointed ears, hands that looked closer to that of claws, large eyes that glowed a yellow hue, and thin, spindly legs. Reported in detail on the 21st of August, in the year 1955, there was an impossible-to-explain incident that led to researchers theorizing that a previously unknown description of strange beings, later provided with the name of the Hopkinsville Goblins, had landed nearby a Kentucky farmhouse and made first contact with a family of 12, and demonstrated malevolent behavior that manifested into a vicious attack lasting for several hours. According to the police report surrounding the incident, the Hopkinsville Police Department reported that 5 adults and 7 children entered the police station with erratic behavior, having been described by the officers as appearing to be distraught and in a panic. The group of adults and children then reported to the police department that they had been in a gunfight, lasting for more than 4 hours, after a group of small alien creatures had come out of a nearby spaceship and began to attack them at their farmhouse. According to 2 witnesses of the event, 2 adults by the name of Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor, they claimed that there had been somewhere between 12 to 15 short humanoid figures that had repeatedly made an appearance at the doorway and peered in through the windows. In fear for their lives and unsure of what the creatures wanted, the invading creatures forced the family to open fire to prevent the unknown creatures from entering the home. As they would shoot the creatures, the witnesses claimed that the unknown monsters would make a loud pinging noise that sounded like the bullets were ricocheting off a metallic surface, causing the creatures to then fall to the floor momentarily, only to roll away and get back up after several seconds. Once revived, the creatures would resume trying to enter the home, and make further attempts to enter through windows or doorways. The rest of the family provided a series of descriptions surrounding the creatures that they had believed were extraterrestrial beings, claiming that the small monsters stood at roughly 2 to 4 feet in height, had large pointed ears, claws for hands, and enlarged oval-shaped eyes that gave off a luminous yellow glow. Fearing that the shootout could have been evidence of neighboring families suffering from mass hysteria and attacking each other in the dark, the officers worked quickly to investigate the claims made by the Langford family. This led to the police department sending a total of 11 men, 4 city police, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police to the Sutton farmhouse to conduct an official investigation on the matter, leading to the officers discovering evidence of the gunfights, bullet holes, and clawed attempts to enter the home carved against the doors and windowsills. Police Chief Russell Greenwell reportedly found a glowing luminous stain nearby a fence on the property. Conflicting reports made by the military police claim that police officer Richard Digby discovered the luminous stain. However, the compound was not gathered or tested for scientific study. A few hours following the investigation, the family would pack up their belongings and leave the farmhouse entirely. According to the family, their reason for their sudden departure was that the creatures had returned at around 3:30 in the morning and tried to re-enter their home once again. Events described as according to the Langford family's official police and subsequent news reports. The location of the incident took place at the Sutton farmhouse, owned by Mrs. Glennie Langford, located at the Gaither McGehee property found on Old Madisonville Road, Route 41, of Kelly, Kentucky, 8 miles north of Hopkinsville. The witnesses of the event totaled 11 people: Mrs. Glennie Langford, age 50, her youngest son Lonnie Langford, age 12, her eldest daughter Charlton Langford, age 10, her youngest daughter Mary Langford, age 7, her second-born son John Charlie J.C. Sutton, age 21, John Sutton's wife Aline Sutton, age 27, Aline Sutton's brother O.P. Baker, approximate age 30, her eldest son Elmer Lucky Sutton, age 25, and Elmer Sutton's wife Vera Sutton, age 29, Elmer Sutton's co-worker Billy Ray Taylor, age 21, and Billy Ray's wife June Taylor, age 18, totaling 8 legal adults and 3 children. It was a late Sunday evening, and the 3 families, the Langfords, Suttons and Taylors, were passing the time by playing cards and telling funny stories after dinner. The visiting co-workers had asked if there was any Kentucky moonshine or bottles of beer available for them to enjoy, but Mrs. Glennie Langford admitted to the visitors that she was a very strict religious follower and would not allow any form of alcohol to enter her home or be consumed in her house. Desperate for something to drink, Billy Ray Taylor went out the back door of the house with a bucket and made a short trip to the outdoor pump to retrieve a few gallons of well water. It was at this time, originally reported to have been sometime around 7 in the evening, or 8 in the evening when accounting for modern scheduled daylight savings time that took effect after 1955, that Billy Ray Taylor noticed what he described as a streak of bright light that moved across the sky coming from the southwest toward his location. Many unidentified object reports erroneously mistake the time of day as pointing towards evidence of a hoax, believing that the sun would not set for another 36 minutes, and so the streak of light was caused by a reflection of sunlight off nearby clouds. However, when taking into account that the original sighting report time would have been around 8 in the evening by modern daylight savings time conventions, the sun had set over 24 minutes prior to the sighting of the bright streaks. As the unexplainable light flew closer, Billy Ray Taylor claimed that he could see what he described as a large disc-shaped object with a variety of colors emitted from its rear landing several fields over, beyond the tree line, disappearing about a quarter of a mile away. In the distance, however, the faint glow of a bright yellowish light could be seen. Surprised by the sudden appearance of the craft, Billy Ray Taylor immediately fled back into the house and told the others what he had witnessed and said that they should all go investigate the craft, together. Believing that Billy Ray had mistaken a falling star for an aircraft, the others dismissed his claims and told him to calm down. Another hour went by as the 3 families continued passing time together before they began to hear the family dogs breaking out into sporadic barkings and violent squeals. Worried for the canines, Elmer Lucky Sutton went outside to investigate the cause of their sudden barking, joined by Billy Ray Taylor, who had grown increasingly hysterical after his sighting of the unidentified flying object only moments before. It was at this moment that the two men claimed to have witnessed a strange creature slowly approaching the house, causing the dogs to flee and crawl underneath the house for protection. Panicked by the sighting, the two men ran back into the house and immediately began arming themselves. Armed, Elmer Sutton exited the farmhouse and stepped out onto the front porch, with Billy Ray Taylor close behind. Illuminated by the light of the house, the two men could more accurately see the strange creature and described it as being approximately 3 to 4 feet in height, with an enlarged head and long, sharply pointed ears on either side. The eyes of the creature were described as being positioned more on the sides of the head and emitted a faint, yellowish glow. The creature had long, thin arms that reached almost to the ground that were equipped with long, webbed fingers that ended in sharp, pointed claws on the tips of its fingers. Its legs were described as being abnormally short, as the creature appeared to have floated above the ground. The rest of its body gave off a faint, reflective glow, as if it was encased in a protective layer of finely polished metal. Mrs. Glennie Langford would later provide the testimony that she had witnessed the strange creature lift its hands above its head as it approached the house. Believing the creature to be raising its hands in peace, she told the two men not to fire at the creature to allow it to approach closer. Whether or not the two men had heard Mrs. Langford, however, is unknown, as the two men opened fire on the creature, causing it to flip over backwards when struck by the bullets. The witnesses claimed that the sound of the bullets hitting the creature was similar to that of a bullet striking the side of a metal bucket. Immediately after falling to the ground, the metallic creature rose back to an upright position and ran off into the darkness, using an odd form of motion that the witnesses reported came from the hips and not from the motions of its legs. The two men and Mrs. Glennie Langford returned to the house and told the others what they had witnessed and began to arm themselves with whatever weapons they could find around the house, which included several rifles, shotguns, and pistols, alongside enough boxes of ammo to hold off a small army. As the three families were in the living room of the home, discussing what they were to do next, they noticed a metallic creature of similar design suddenly appear in the window, trying to peer into the house as if making an attempt to enter the home by force. John Sutton then fired at the living room window, causing the creature to fall backwards and hit the ground. Believing now that they were under attack, Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray went outside to check the perimeter of the house to make sure that the creature was gone. After Elmer had stepped off the porch and onto the front grass, with Billy Ray close behind, Aline Sutton noticed a long clawed hand reaching down from the porch's rooftop towards Billy Ray Taylor's head. She screamed for him to look up and to watch out for the creature's hand. At this point, Billy Ray Taylor was pulled back into the house by Aline Sutton, and Elmer Sutton turned around and began firing at the creature on the rooftop from the front yard, knocking the creature off the roof and disappearing into the nearby weeds. Billy Ray Sutton then began to realize that there was more than one creature and exited the house while pointing over at the property's adjacent tree line. Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray noticed another creature of similar design hiding in the nearby maple tree. The two men opened fire on the creature, which jumped down and slowly descended onto the yard before it moved away from the house and deeper into the tree line, with its hips swaying in a strange motion and its short legs floating above the ground. Billy Ray and Elmer Sutton chased the creature further into the tree line, firing after it until it was away from the property, a significant distance. When they returned to the house, they claimed to have seen another of the metallic creatures peeking around the side of the farmhouse, looking as if it was trying to find a side window to enter through. The two men fired at the creature until it was on the ground, which echoed the sound of metallic strikes, and began to approach the creature as they continued firing. Before the men could get too close, however, the creature levitated back up to an upright position and escaped. Spending another 20 minutes outside the home, looking around the property and the rooftop of the house, the two men noticed another metallic creature on the top of the house, and so began to fire multiple shots at the creature until it began descending 40 feet away from the rooftop and hovered over a fence located on the property. Chasing the creature, the two men went after the creature while firing, forcing the monster off the property as it fled away into the darkness. Failing to find any more of the creatures on or around the house, the two men re-entered the home and told the others what they had seen and that the single creature was more accurately a group of creatures. The children were told to stay under the beds, while the adults argued about what they were going to do and whether or not what was happening was some kind of elaborate prank being pulled on each other by other members of the house. More than 20 minutes passed without any sign of the creatures returning, at which point the family began to realize that their weapons were ineffective against the monsters and would not be able to repel them for long, and so decided that hiding in different areas around the house would be far more effective, in the hopes of waiting out the creatures until the morning arrived. While the occupants of the house waited, switching between hiding places and crouching by the windows and doors, the sounds of scratching and clawing would emanate from the rooftop. Before long, Mrs. Glennie Langford would scream to the men that she could see through the window that one of the metallic creatures was approaching the front door of the home and making an attempt to enter the house. Reacting quickly, Billy Ray Taylor opened the front door and fired several rounds through the screen door, completely destroying the lining of the screen door and causing the metallic creature to fly backwards onto the front yard. Mrs. Glennie Langford would later provide the testimony that the metallic creature that approached the front door had a design that differed greatly from the other reported metallic creatures, describing the creature as having the barrel-shaped body of a shiny silver 5-gallon kerosene can, supported by 2 skinny legs that touched the ground with a large head attached to the top of the body. Her description of the creature appears to imply that the creature was artificial in nature and possibly a metal automaton. As time passed, the surrounding metallic creatures made several more attempts to enter the house, appearing in windows and approaching the front door, but were warded off with gunfire at each attempt. The residents of the house estimated that at the height of the invasion attempts, there were somewhere between 12 to 15 of the metallic creatures at any one time, but reports themselves show that the attack could have been caused by 2 metallic creatures making repeat appearances. After several hours of the attack had passed, the 3 families began to worry that they would not be able to hold out for much longer, and began making attempts to conserve what remained of their ammunition, which was running thin. It was at around 11, a total of 3 hours after the invasion began, that the family made their first attempt to evacuate the home and contact the police. After planning out a thorough route that the 11 residents of the farmhouse could take together as a group to Elmer Sutton's and Billy Ray Taylor's car, the children and the wives quickly started to pack necessary belongings and prepared for their journey to the vehicles. When the attack slowed down, the adults formed a protective layer around the children, with the 3 armed men forming an outer offensive perimeter as they moved together as a group to separate vehicles. Once everyone was inside the vehicles, the families drove together to the nearest police station, 8 miles away in Hopkinsville. Many of the witnesses that had a direct and clear line of sight of the Hopkinsville goblins described the metallic creatures as demonstrating a peculiar form of flight capabilities. Rather than walking on the ground with a standard form of locomotion, they hovered only a few feet above the ground. When dropping from tree lines or rooftops, the creatures would slowly descend to the ground only to hover several feet above the ground, as if the creature was not capable of having a prolonged form of flight at a height greater than several feet. Due to their metallic nature, the artificial glowing eyes, the strange body shape, and the unexplainable form of levitation, it is believed that the Hopkinsville goblin is a robotic entity created and used by the nearby unidentified flying object for an unknown purpose. If it is to be believed that the creature is a robotic entity, then the hovering abilities are most likely caused by a mechanical form of flight that does not make significant noise, such as lighter than air processes, or ionic propulsion, or both. Reports show that officers discovered a luminous liquid material near the fence line of the property, which matches the claims made by Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor of firing at one of the creatures as it hovered over the fence. The luminous material provides evidence that the makeup of the creature is artificial in nature, and a form of coolant or oil could be made luminous for ease of repair, as a luminous compound would be easy to spot, and the coloring could be an easy indicator of which system might be leaking. The levitating form of locomotion of the creatures implies that the robots were most likely designed for zero-gravity environments, as the need for levitation of any kind would be far less efficient in gravity-heavy environments when compared to standard forms of locomotion. The creatures appeared to have a deeper knowledge of the psychological profile of human beings, consistently demonstrating behaviors that would require intensive study of the human mind and empathetic actions. Although it could have been possible that the Hopkinsville goblins were limited in its flight capabilities, reports showed that the creatures had the ability to levitate to heights that would allow them to get on top of rooftops and hide in trees, demonstrating that the creatures were more than capable of flying at much greater heights. The option then to fly at hovering heights could have been an empathetic move to appear more humanoid and less intimidating by remaining at much smaller heights when compared to the residents. When the creature raised its hands above its head, according to the testimony of Mrs. Glennie Langford, it demonstrated a knowledge of human body language, appearing to make an attempt at establishing a peaceful first contact. Such a behavior is atypical of any known creature and is evidence that the study of human body language took place. The creature's design is seemingly humanoid, which could have been a design choice that was made with empathetic connection in mind. It would be much easier for human beings to empathize and relate to a creature that is more similar in design to a humanoid figure rather than a more terrifying shape. And so the choice of humanoid designs over a robotic design that is far more efficient could be evidence of psychological understanding. Evidence as to their artificial nature is demonstrated in the complete lack of self-preservation on the creature's part and the performance of repeated actions, regardless of the changing conditions. Even after being shot and leaking luminous fluid, the creatures continued making repeated attempts at entering through the front door and peering through the window, of which would be anomalous behavior of any advanced intelligent life. The seemingly incompetent behavior points to an artificial intelligence or conditional programming.
The Blackbeard merfolk sighting. Edward Blackbeard Teach is remembered as one of the most fearsome men to have ever lived, becoming a legend during his own lifetime as one of the greatest pirates to have ever lived. Although his reign as a pirate only lasted a short 2 years, it was the terrifying cruelty of Blackbeard that cemented him as a legend. Many merchants and fishermen would often claim that when in battle against Blackbeard, they had believed him to be the devil himself, due to the fact that he would often put smoking fuses in his long black hair and beard and strapped weapons on his body to make himself look less human and more like a monster. It is for this reason that experts find it extremely peculiar that Blackbeard often wrote that his number one fear of the open sea was that of his mermaid sightings made in specific regions. Blackbeard often wrote that he believed the sighting of the creatures were an omen of bad luck, and that they had made attempts to drag him under the water and steal his gold. Blackbeard would often end his logbook reports with warnings to his crew members of the enchanting powers of the mermaids and never to revisit the areas of his sightings. The missing Prime Minister. On the 17th of December 1967, Prime Minister of Australia Harold Holt disappeared into the waters near Portsea, Victoria. Widely believed to be merely a swimming accident, various theories began to pile up. This is most likely because Holt's body was never recovered from the waters. Holt became Prime Minister in January 1966. Holt initially denied having security, deeming it unnecessary and making him seem impersonal to the public. This changed later, after a window of his office was sniped out and a later assassination attempt was made on the leader of the opposition. He finally agreed to one bodyguard but never took one on any vacations. Speaking of vacations, Holt was an avid outdoorsman. He had a fondness for spearfishing and would fish year-round. He also snorkeled, preferring the freedom versus the cumbersome weight of a tank. He is described as having incredible powers of endurance underwater. That being the case, however, Holt still had 2 near misses in the water, one which he blamed on a leaking snorkel, and one he blamed on chasing a fish while spearfishing. The morning of his disappearance began normally. Holt awoke early in his vacation house in Portsea, called his wife, and stopped at a general store. The items he purchased did not seem out of character: insect repellent, peanuts, and some newspapers. Holt spent the morning with friends, with a notable stop in Port Phillip Bay to catch a glimpse of a solo circumnavigator coming through. On the way home, in typical Holt fashion, he suggested they all stop for a swim at Cheviot Beach. His reasonings were the hot day and wanting to work up an appetite for the barbecue lunch they had planned to enjoy. Holt was familiar with the area, having spent lots of time swimming and fishing in the area. He had even once retrieved a porthole from a shipwreck in the area. Holt was the only one to venture deep into the water. Others deemed it unsafe due to a visible swell and undertow. Holt swam deeper out into the ocean, despite the calls from his friends, and without a wave or call for help, Holt simply slipped beneath the water. The search for Holt's body went on until January 5, 1968. A formal investigation deemed it an accidental drowning, stating Holt took a risk that day and paid the price for it. They found no evidence to prove otherwise. They went on further to explain that if sea creatures had gotten a hold of his body, he would have been reduced to bones within days. This would explain the lack of body being found. It all sounds so cut and dry, but soon enough, theories began to surface. Some theories claim he ended his life, fearing his political career was ending. The police report specifically ruled out this theory. However, as Holt carried on his ordinary routines, his wife went on to say that she believed him too selfish to commit suicide. Other more crazy ideas involve a Chinese submarine rescuing their lifelong spy and being killed by a Vietnamese nerve agent, all of which have been marked as nonsense from Holt's family. In Australia, Holt's death is often the subject of dark humour. It has impacted their slang. Instead of bolting, one would do a Harold Holt. His death has even inspired a storyline on an Australian soap opera. Whatever locals believe, it is obvious Holt's disappearance has impacted the lives of those he served. Pedro Oliva Ramirez, the man who travelled to a parallel universe. Our last mysterious individual is Pedro Oliva Ramirez from Seville, Spain. He was driving home one night when he experienced something unlike anything he'd experienced before. The start of his drive was normal, but it was once he laid eyes on the open land that was about 100 meters away where he could see 5 or 6 industries. When he looked over to the other side, he saw the same phenomenon, only there were residential buildings. He felt as if the landscape was a little unusual and then started to feel a strong sensation of heat invading his vehicle. He also described seeing a great soccer goal many meters ahead from the car and he had to pass through. He heard voices, one of which confirmed that he had been transferred to another country in a different hemisphere. He continued driving along the road for about an hour until he decided to stop. He got out of his car and walked along the edge of the road for many hours, looking at the lights of other vehicles and the grass. He got back in his car and continued driving until he found a triple sign with directions. He took a detour towards Seville and got lost. He tried to retrace his steps but never found the sign again and could not relocate the large 6-lane highway he had previously been travelling on. When looking back on the maps, he wasn't able to find such a highway to begin with. After further investigation, Ramirez concluded that he must have passed over into another dimension while driving home that day. Of course, no one is able to confirm his experience to be true, so we'll have to go off his word for now. Maybe one day in the future we will be better equipped to understand what happened, and if time travel was possible when Ramirez had this unusual experience. After taking a look at the lives of these 3 interesting and mysterious individuals, do you believe that time travel is real? With no real evidence to back each story, it's challenging to believe it entirely. With more people coming forward with stories related to teleportation and time travel, maybe we'll experience it for ourselves at some point. Until then, we can only choose to believe it's a real possibility if we want to. The disappearance of Sharon Buis. On May 23, 2014, Sharon Gay Buis disappeared from the Mount Roberts Trail in Alaska. She was last seen at 9:30 a.m. that morning at the Alaska Marine Line store in downtown Juneau. The 48-year-old was hiking solo and had not notified any friends or family about her plans. She was supposed to meet with a friend the next day at 8:45 a.m. to go hiking together, but failed to show. After some time, she was reported missing, but troopers have not found any clues of her whereabouts to this day. Sharon Buis was a physical therapist working for Juneau Physical Therapy and had lived in Juneau for a decade by the time of her disappearance. She also ran a side business where she sold orthopedic office chairs. She was shipping out 2 chairs at Alaska Marine Lines the day that she went missing. Buis was an experienced hiker and recently returned from Greenland where she went ice camping. She had even biked from Alaska to Canada at one point and enjoyed running, kayaking, and playing hockey. Buis was always active, so her longtime hiking partner was very confused when she did not show up that morning. Buis owned an emergency GPS, but left it at home that day along with her overnight backpack. Police assumed her cell phone was with her, but it was most likely turned off as the phone company could not ping its location. Ann Johnson called the police and filed a missing person report after Buis failed to show up for their Hawthorne Peaks hike. Feeling uneasy about the situation, Johnson drove around that evening to various trailheads looking for Buis's car. She eventually found it parked at Mount Roberts Trailhead at 9:30 p.m. on May 24, 2014. The search began at 1 a.m. on May 25th and covered the entire Mount Jeannot trail system and backcountry over 4 days. The U.S. Coast Guard, Alaska State Troopers, Southeast Alaska Dogs, and the Alpine Club all joined the search and rescue alongside her family and friends. The Coast Guard even brought in a helicopter to use FLIR thermal imaging and night vision to find her, but were unsuccessful. The search team utilized aerial support wherever the ground was too dangerous for searchers to explore, such as ravines or ridgelines. A search dog picked up her scent near the Mount Roberts Trailhead parking lot after a few days. But that was it. The search lasted only 4 days before the state troopers called it off, much to the dismay of Buis's loved ones. The searchers had covered so much ground and double-checked everywhere that they were confident she was not there. Over the next few months, occasional leads would turn up and give them hope, such as a hiker who reported a bear and a decaying odour, but nothing ever panned out. Some groups conducted additional search attempts around the trail and the abandoned mine shafts nearby, but never found any evidence suggesting Buis's presence. They have combed through that trailhead so often that it is surprising they have not been able to find anything. The police and troopers explained that Buis might have gotten lost or injured in an area inaccessible to ground searchers. Another theory is that she was attacked by an animal, although they found no evidence of that. Another idea was that she was a victim of foul play. Her car was at the trailhead, but did she even make it up onto the trail? The police never managed to find information about Sharon Buis's disappearance, so it remains an open case 7 years later. Gabriel Naggi. Sometimes people go missing and are never seen or heard from again, leaving their families to conclude, after years of waiting, that they must have met some unfortunate end. This appeared to be the case with Gabriel Naggi, who disappeared from Sydney, Australia one afternoon in 1987. A devoted husband and father to 2 children, Naggi was an incredibly hard worker who supported his family by working successful construction jobs while attending accounting classes at night. On that fateful day, Naggi had spent the morning running errands in town and called his wife Pamela to let her know that he was on his way home for lunch. Pamela got his lunch ready, but when he did not return after several hours, she became increasingly worried, and that worry turned into outright panic when Naggi's car was discovered on the side of the road. The car was burned, and Gabriel was nowhere to be found. His distraught family was left to wonder what had happened and where their father and husband went. 2 weeks after his car was found, Naggi withdrew money from a bank in Newcastle, almost 100 miles from Sydney, confirming that he was out there somewhere and still alive. However, no other clues or leads turned up for over 2 decades, and his family had long ago lost hope that they would ever see him again. Finally, during preparations to declare Naggi officially dead after being missing for so long, a police officer combing public records one final time noticed that a man of the same name, who also went by Ron Saunders, had appeared in medical records from a recent surgery. The officer travelled to the location of the surgery in a town called Mackay, almost 1,000 miles from Sydney, and tracked down Naggi at last. It turned out that he had developed dissociative fugue as a result of the crash, resulting in retrograde amnesia that caused him to forget about his life prior to the accident. With no idea who he was, he spent the intervening years mostly homeless, wandering from city to city. He called himself Ron Saunders because he had seen a sign for Saunders Beach during his wanderings and, not knowing his real name, thought that it sounded nice. After his discovery, as he read letters and saw pictures from before his accident, His memory slowly began to return in hazy pieces, and he was reunited with his family. Although he and his wife and children still live separately, his family is all supportive of Naggi as he navigates this new life that he was unaware that he even had, and begins to rebuild the relationships with those who had believed him dead for 20 years. The Cassie Nicole boat. On April 10th, 1990, a snapper boat set off on a fishing expedition in the Atlantic Ocean. For the majority of the previous month, the ship had been undergoing maintenance, and on the second day of the expedition, at allegedly 4:30 a.m., one of the crew members, Nathan, noticed that there was something wrong with the ship. It was stagnant and churning forward in a worryingly unstable manner. Brothers Nathan and the captain Billy Joe Neesmith discovered a store of water in the hold, and the pumps were no longer running. The power went out, and any attempts to get help through the radio were futile. Nathan woke up the other two crew members, Keith Wilkes and Franklin Brantley, who attempted to gather and pour the water overboard using buckets, but this failed as the boat continued to sink deeper into the waves. Captain Neesmith ordered for the ship to be abandoned since they would not be able to salvage it. Fortunately, they had a raft on board, which they all decided to board, but the raft was run down and had not been adequately cared for during the ship's maintenance, and a fungus had gotten into the wood, rotting it from within. The raft was small, and the four men struggled to fit onto it. They floated upon the waves until the hull of their sunken boat drifted towards them. Nathan decided to attempt riding on the hatch drifting nearby, despite the pleas from his fellow crew members to remain on the raft. They had no way of knowing what would happen if touching the shipwreck was safe, not to mention they feared the possibility of being split up on the vast, dark ocean. Nathan swam until he reached the submerged hull, but the dark dusk concealed his vision of the raft. By the morning of April 12th, he saw a freighter in the distance which circled around his crewmates for several hours, but the freighter never came for him. Fate seemed grim for Nathan, but then the ship's bait box broke off and he saved himself by turning it into a raft just before the whole boat sunk into the Atlantic. He was rescued on April 15th, 1990, terribly sunburnt and on the verge of death from dehydration. He hoped to be reunited with his crewmates, but this chance never arrived because, despite a search by the US Coast Guard, his 3 crewmates were missing. Nathan believes that the freighter which saved them dropped them off in a different nation. Oneida, the sister of Nathan and Captain Billy Joe Neesmith, received a strange call from someone speaking Spanish, but the only thing she understood was her name and phone number before the caller hung up. The owner of the snapper boat, Mr. Tyson, received a similar call from someone speaking broken English. Oneida and Tyson received 3 more calls between them until 1991, when the caller said, "I am bringing them home," in comprehensive English. Oneida stated in her testimony that the caller must have been a Spanish-speaking native from another country who found or befriended the 3 crew members. The 3 men, Billy Joe Neesmith, Keith Wilkes and Franklin Brantley, are still lost at sea and have officially been declared deceased. Despite this, the strange calls suggest they were alive and on their way home. Since then, there has been no contact at all with either Mr. Tyson or Oneida. Despite the fact 30 years have now passed, their family still pray for their safe return. The unsolved disappearance of Thomas Nuzi. Thomas Nuzi's family has been searching for him for the last decade after he mysteriously vanished on June 18, 2001. He was last seen by friends 3 days prior and was finally reported missing after failing to show up to work in Bethel, Alaska on the 19th. The last image of him was taken on the 18th at a gasoline station near the Super 8 Hotel on Minnesota Drive in Anchorage, where he was staying. Authorities found a receipt that showed Nuzi had purchased chips, soda, 2 lighters and a pack of cigarettes at the gas station at 9:47 p.m. He was never seen or heard from after this. Police believe Nuzi was on foot when he disappeared, since his Jeep Cherokee was found 12 miles outside of the city at the Alpenglow ski area in Chugach State Park, and his bicycle was at his unlocked storage unit. Apparently, on June 15th, a woman and another man attempted to break into Nuzi's car at the hotel, as reported by a security guard. The woman was also captured on the surveillance camera standing next to Nuzi at the gas station. On his last known day, the same couple was once again spotted breaking into the Jeep. This time, the man was successful and drove off with the car. The following day, the day Nuzi was reported as missing, a housekeeper of the hotel saw a man on Nuzi's hotel room floor. When she came back later in the afternoon, the same man was sitting on the bed. He was not Nuzi, and she made him leave the room. Police consider the couple as persons of interest to the case, but have not been identified or seen since. The woman is small, about 5 foot 2 inches and 105 pounds, Caucasian with medium-long dark hair and possibly in her 20s. The man is dark-skinned, tall, thin, and has decaying teeth. They are suspected of having used Nuzi's phone since all the recent calls on his phone were traced to unknown numbers. Many of the numbers are connected to motels, pages, and a halfway house. Nuzi's nephew called back every single call, missed, dialed, or received, but none of the people who answered him had ever heard of his uncle before. Despite an extensive search for clues by authorities, they were unable to turn up any evidence or leads to Nuzi's disappearance. He lived a quiet and reclusive life, working as a registered nurse and often traveling around the state for his employment. Because of this, he did not even have a permanent address and opted to live out of hotels. He has never been seen since that day, and his case remains unsolved. The Shanti Devi story. The story of Shanti Devi is among the most amazing documentation of reincarnation, attracting the attention of everyone, including Mahatma Gandhi. Born in India's New Delhi on the 11th of December 1926, Shanti did not speak much in her first years, unlike many young children. When she reached 4 years, however, she started speaking about her memories of another life that she lived. She said that her home was not in Delhi, but instead 93 miles away in Mathura, where she lived with her husband, and she insisted that she had to go back to her son and husband. Her parents discouraged her from speaking of her previous life, telling her to put it behind her and be concerned about the present, which annoyed her and made her run away from home to Mathura. She was found and taken back to her parents. She started speaking of her previous life during school in detail and was even able to recall the names of her husband, children, and what happened when she lost her life. She died 9 days after giving birth. This information enabled the headmaster to locate a man named Kedar Nath, who had lost his wife Ludji 9 years ago, 10 days after childbirth. Kedar visited Shanti and her parents using a false name, and she soon identified him as her previous life husband. Mahatma Gandhi was informed of the events and possible reincarnation, and he set up a team to investigate the story. Shanti and the team went to Mathura, where she recognized her home, the furniture layout, and even her family members. She remembered some secrets of family members that someone would only know in confidence. Shanti was also able to tell her husband that he did not keep the promises that he had made to her. She also started speaking in her local dialect. The team concluded irrefutably that Shanti Devi was a reincarnation of Lugdi Devi. Several other researchers did their independent investigations and came to the same conclusion. Zak Bagans and the Conjuring House. Ghost hunter, TV presenter, and all-round creep-loving guy Zak Bagans has been surrounded by ghouls and ghosts for most of his professional life. The host of the show Ghost Adventures, Bagans also owns his own haunted museum in Nevada. Despite becoming accustomed to the spooks of the underworld, Bagans reportedly isn't immune to the effects that his area of interest has on people. Dubbed the modern Ed and Lorraine Warren, Bagans paid a visit to the legendary Harrisville farmhouse in Rhode Island, which is the real-life setting for the Conjuring film franchise. The original owners of the home, depicted in the films, spoke of how the Warrens knew that they had their hands full when they entered the farmhouse to investigate alleged incidents of possession and poltergeist activity. When Bagans entered the farmhouse to explore it himself, things began to go wrong. Bagans allegedly began to complain of chest pains and dizziness, as well as difficulty breathing. Bagans declared himself unwell and described how he just didn't want to be around anybody. He insisted that he didn't feel possessed and how he would know what that felt like. He described his feeling as if something was drawing life out of him into some sort of entity or atmosphere. Scarily, like many who had been to the farmhouse before, Bagans too knew there was a presence there. Bagans, the Warrens, and others have all felt a strange and eerie presence in the Harrisville farmhouse, and it could well be one of the most haunted places in America. The disappearance of Bruno Manza. On May 25, 2000, Swiss environmentalist Bruno Manza disappeared in the Borneo forests and has never been seen since. He was declared legally deceased 5 years later, as there was no sign or evidence of him found. He was 45 at the time and had spent the past 10 years fighting the Malaysian government and logging companies on behalf of the Penan, the indigenous jungle nomads of Borneo. Manza wanted to live a life without consumerism, capitalism, and technological advancements. As a young adult, he refused the Swiss military draft and served a few months in jail. He then moved to the Alps to work as a cow and sheep herder and learned how to make his own tools and food. He became enchanted with this type of simple living. Switzerland was not enough for him, so at 30 years old, he travelled to Borneo. He soon learned about the Penan nomadic tribes and decided to try and find them and live with them. After searching the dense Sarawak jungle in Malaysia, he finally came in contact with them in May 1984. After some time, the Penan accepted his presence and he began to learn their language and culture. He grew out his hair into their traditional mullet, wore a loincloth, walked barefoot, and even hunted with a blow dart. The Penan nicknamed him Laki Penan, which means Penan Man. They respected him and considered him one of their own. The politics in Borneo grew more complicated and aggressive, as the government backed the logging companies who were destroying the forests and desecrating sacred lands. The deforestation contaminated their drinking water, significantly reduced the vegetation and game, and limited the tribe in their movements. Manza began to work alongside the Penan in their attempts to thwart the loggers. Over the next decade, he would go back almost every year to visit the tribe, usually by illegally crossing the border out of Indonesia to get to them, and would assist them in their battle with the loggers. He travelled the world and held lectures, protests and strikes to garner attention to the Penan's plight. He set up a fund to give aid to the indigenous people in the forest, and the cause eventually gained notoriety around the world. Politicians and leaders around the world condemned the deforestation, which angered the Malaysian government. They denied him entry and put a bounty on his head when he swam across the border at night. He was enemy number one of the state and escaped capture numerous times by using a fake passport and changing his appearance, running away while an officer was distracted, and using the rivers and forest undergrowth to hide. In February of 2000, Manza began his last trek to the Sarawak forest. He first travelled with the secretary of his fund, BMF, and a film crew. After a while, they left, and he continued with a different friend for a few weeks until they arrived at the Sarawak-Kalimantan border. Manza, aided by a local guide, crossed the border on the 22nd of May. The last known sighting of him was on May 25th. When a local Penan and his son journeyed with him to the mountain Bukit Batu Lawi. Manza intended to ascend the mountain alone. Searches and expeditions were conducted by Penan teams and members of the BMF, but to no avail. There were conspiracies that the Malaysian government ended his life, but those close to him believe he either fell down the mountain or took his own life. After his disappearance, he was awarded the International Society for Human Rights Prize and had a new species of goblin spider named after him. 10 years after his disappearance, a memorial service was held in Basel, Switzerland, to which 500 people attended. There have been films and books made about his story. The Black Mountain. Known as Calcajacca by the indigenous peoples living there, Black Mountain has its fair share of haunted stories and legends. This mountain is situated along the Trefethen Range in northern Queensland. It is made up of many giant granite boulders. Calcajacca translates to spear and was named for the last battleground between the inland and coastal clans as they fought for hunting grounds. It is a massive graveyard for their fallen warriors, and is believed to be a place where devils and spirits wander about. The indigenous peoples in this area are taught to respect the mountain and actively avoid going there. They believe that you will get very sick if you visit it and that the spirits living there will torment you. The legends say that there are dark forces at work within the mountain, so they do not like when people visit it. Once settlers started arriving to colonize the lands in the 1800s, they also added onto these legends with their own experiences. Dozens of men have attempted to visit the mountain, but none ever made it back. Men, their horses, and entire herds of cattle have gone missing from this mountain. Infamous criminals ran into the mountain and caves to escape law enforcement and were never found, despite intensive searches of the surrounding areas. Even the trackers that were sent in to find missing people also disappeared. There was only one case of a police officer who returned, but he was so distraught and unhinged that he was unable to ever give a report on it. It is nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle of northern Queensland, as no one can fully explain what happens there. People who live nearby report eerie sounds that occur, especially during the night. When the wind blows through the rocks, it sounds like people or spirits screaming. When it rains and the rocks break down and fall, it sounds as if an explosion has just gone off. Some theories say that it is a man-made pyramid as it is located on one of the meridian points on our planet. In reality, it is just hard granite that was formed underneath the Earth's surface and was gradually exposed as the surface above it eroded. Weather shaped the rock into boulders and created deep fractures and cliffs. The dark colour of the rock is also due to the blue-green algae that grows on it. Despite knowing how the rocks were formed, there is still no concrete explanation for all the missing persons. It is an extremely dangerous hike to get to the top of the mountain. It requires you to jump from rock to rock, where any misstep can cause you to fall. The indigenous people dislike it when adventurers come to hike the mountain, as they don't show any respect for it. If you want to visit it, you should take a guided tour led by the indigenous clans so that they can teach you about the cultural significance of it. Most people don't believe in the spirits that haunt the mountain, but they are still wary of the mountain. Some superstitions cannot be ignored. There is just something about Black Mountain that unnerves people. The disappearance of Mel Wigh. Police Chief Mel Wigh was last seen on July 27, 1985, on a date with his girlfriend in Hinckley Township, a suburb of Cleveland. His car was found on July 30th at Lakefront State Park on Lake Erie in Cleveland, Ohio. Police performed a thorough search of the area and found no sign of Wigh. After searching his car, which was still locked, they found his wallet with $15 in cash, his police ID and badge, some sunscreen, a pack of cigarettes, and a beach towel. After performing an investigation among Wigh's friends, family, and co-workers, authorities ruled out the possibility of foul play. Wigh left work early a lot and seemed moody in the weeks before his disappearance. His friends believed that he had grown tired of his job but did not think anything of it. He had always wanted to retire at 50, so he could write full-time, but he ended up disappearing 3 years before retirement. In his spare time, Wigh wrote poetry and was a thriller mystery novelist. Before his disappearance, he was writing a novel about a homicide in Pennsylvania that he often spoke of to anyone that would listen. When police entered Wigh's home, it was spotless, and he had also left several days of food and water out for his 2 cats. After an extensive search through his belongings, his thriller manuscript was nowhere to be found. Other missing things were stamps, envelopes, his music collection, typewriter paper, and an address book. Most of his long-sleeve shirts were missing. which he frequently wore to cover the burns on his arms that he had suffered while serving in the military. The only thing left in his fridge was a jar of mayonnaise. The police later found out that his desk at the police station was empty as well, except for a key to his apartment. At this point, it was as if Wiley had merely vanished into thin air, but after picking up his dry cleaning, police found the first of many strange clues. Located in the pocket of his police uniform were bus schedules from Cleveland to San Francisco. Wiley had written a letter to a female friend before his disappearance. He had expressed that he wanted to disappear and was tired of his life in Hinckley. The letter stated that he would be 2,500 miles away when his friend would receive his letter, roughly the distance between Cleveland and San Francisco. Police were able to decipher the letter by looking at the ribbon on his office typewriter. Investigators were never able to track down the original letter, and it appears that the friend never received it. As a police chief, Mel had access to all he would need to form a new identity directly at his fingertips. With access to a database of fingerprints and social security information, it is entirely possible that Mel leveraged his years in law enforcement to facilitate his disappearance. With his military background and several years in law enforcement, he would also know how to stay off the radar. Mel was the only suspect in his own case. He was declared legally deceased in 1993 per Ohio law, once he had been missing for 5 years. Mel could very well be enjoying his remaining years writing poetry and novels on the West Coast today. Having a passion for writing mysteries, Wiley's most tremendous story appears to have been the one of his own disappearance. Craig Williamson, who disappeared, was discovered with memory loss. Craig Williamson, a Wisconsin guy that went missing while out on a work trip in Colorado 2 years ago, is alive today and well in Key West, Florida. According to officials, Williamson is said to be a driver in Florida. After being violently attacked on August 30th, 1993 at a pub or convenience shop in Colorado, he recently informed police that he lost his memory. Williamson's story, however, corresponds to a view advanced by his widow, Christine Reinhardt, who garnered global attention to her husband's abduction. Her statewide lookup for Williamson does include clip-on national TV programs and numerous media articles in multiple states. "I have no authority to speak on the subject. I'm stunned," Ms. Reinhardt, who relocated from Wisconsin to Cody, Wyoming, roughly a year ago just after the couple's fishery closed, stated. She explained, "We're trying hard to keep it a family matter till we can address some concerns, because presently we're both very vulnerable. Craig's mental reaction is quite fragile." She furthermore defined her husband as experiencing an exceptionally incapacitated recollection and even being very suspicious or frightened, with whom she had spoken on the mobile device at least 2 or 3 times over the last week. El Paso County Sheriff's detectives are delighted to bring the case to an end after years and years of effort by state and federal investigators and a financial cost of approximately $12,000 since August 31st, 1993. Williamson must have traveled to Colorado in late August in an old-fashioned bus intending to purchase fish from the fisheries around Alamosa. However, he vanished before he could even secure his cargo. The majority of Williamson's things were discovered in the lodge bedroom and at the bus station nearby. They investigated the case as a suspected assassination despite the lack of traces of resistance. Williamson's subsequent communications with Ms. Reinhardt, as well as his old girlfriend in Wisconsin, led detectives to the Florida harbor in which he had resided for the past 9 months. Authorities are not sure what happened to Williamson before he vanished. Williamson, on the other hand, reportedly told authorities how he was brutally injured and awoke in a hospital wearing a bracelet with the moniker Ron on it. He then spent 18 months in Key West, riding public transport aimlessly. Williamson's recall was questioned by the sheriff's captain, Lou Smith, who assisted with the inquiry. He said that shavings from Williamson's moustache were recovered in the discarded hire truck, which was clipped using blades from lab personnel. Smith speculated he was presumably altering his look. Williamson was carrying $2,500 in cash before he vanished, and he might have been fleeing an onerous responsibility from his new company. The duo had put all they possessed into the fish farm, plus an additional $400,000. Smith claims that the answer can only be revealed if Williamson, who did not answer a journalist's call, reveals it. If only Williamson requests it, police will look into the charges of harassment. Though there were many ancient civilizations that had existed during the 12th century BC, suddenly and quite unexpectedly, nearly every civilization was wiped from the face of the earth except the cities of Egypt. This phenomenon was recorded as the Late Bronze Age collapse that soon bled into the early Greek Dark Ages, as only small villages of humanity survived this sudden catastrophe. For many decades, the cause of such an occurrence had widely been unknown and shrouded in mystery. That was until the ancient language of the Egyptian hieroglyphics had been decoded and allowed us to read the historical records captured at the time by the last standing ancient civilization. This record has led to countless theories and endless debate amongst Egyptologists, classic historians, and archaeologists since its findings. Over 2,000 years before the Vikings sailed from today's Scandinavia to plague the Europeans, the ancient world empires faced a terrifying sea-travelling enemy of their own, and that has remained a mystery up to today. During the Bronze Age, the Sea People caused terror in the Mediterranean and Egyptian lands, but their origin and identity has remained a mystery until this day. An inscription written in the 13th century BC said they came from the sea in their ships of war and nobody could defeat them. Reportedly, by the historical accounts of the ancient Egyptians, armies of what had been referred to at the time as Sea People attacked and demolished the cities of man. In fact, the descriptions of the armies of the Sea People describe monsters and giants coming from the oceans and waging war against all of civilization. The reasoning for why this sudden onslaught had occurred has yet to be better understood, but what's surprising is the vast amount of theories surrounding the events. Accounts continue of the Egyptians attempting to track the source of the beasts that appeared humanoid in nature, and it's reported that they found hundreds of footprints coming from the beaches of the Mediterranean Sea. Today, after uncovering vast art depicting the battles, documents detailing the events, and further evidence of war and tactics used against the destroyed and forgotten civilizations of the past, the proof of the account of the Sea People appears to be overwhelming in nature. As a matter of fact, the events are so overwhelming that the discussion surrounding the event in the scientific community has been completely shut down, and further theories or attempts at uncovering the truth are treated with both disdain and ridicule. Regardless of this ridicule, however, many researchers continue to attempt to understand the mysteries of the Sea People and remain restless in their pursuits. Perhaps one day we will better understand whether these accounts are of mythology or true history. Until then, the accounts of the Sea People are shrouded in creepy events and terrifying mysteries. The Egyptian inscriptions provide almost all there is to know about the Sea People, apart from the references in the letters from the Assyrians and the Hittites that have contributed to the subject. They were also mentioned in the Egyptian literature. The Tale of Wenemum, where they appear as familiar figures in the Mediterranean land. Who were the Sea People that invaded Egypt? Everything known about the Sea People comes from apocalyptic inscriptions that were made by the empires they battled, especially ancient Egyptians, since they did not leave any written records or monuments of their own. One early reference goes back to 1300 BC during the ruling of Pharaoh Merenta, as he claimed of killing 6,000 seafarers as they allied with the Libyans. An even more detailed account from Ramses III, who fought with the Sea People back in 1170 BC. Described them as having moved southwestern towns in Syria, Turkey, Levant, and Cyprus, desolating its residents and leaving the city as if it had never existed. He also described them as being made of a tribe confederation like the Shadana, Teresh, the Lucca, the Peliset, the Shekelesh, the Tersa, and the Akawasha. Archaeologists proposed that the Shadana originated from North Syria, moving later to Cyprus and ending up as the Sardinians. The Teresh and Lucca probably originated from western Anatolia. The Ekwesh have been related to the Ahiyawa in the records of Hitti, who may be Archaean Greeks who colonized the western Anatolian coast and the Aegean Islands. They consisted of sea raiders who invaded the towns at the Mediterranean coast between 1276 and 1178 BC, focusing mostly on Egypt. History considers them as the major contributors to the collapse of the Bronze Age between 1250 and 1150 BC. Where did the Sea People come from? Scholars are still not certain of the origins of these groups, but many trace them to Sicily, Turkey's Anatolia region, or the Aegean Sea. Some modern historians have a theory that the ancient Egyptians knew the origins of the Sea People based on what they wrote about them. Due to the fact that these Egyptian inscriptions did not mention the origins of the groups, some historians believe that their origin was so obvious that it did not need to be written down. There are some speculations with little evidence that the Sea People were in fact the Philistines of the Bible, who probably battled with ancient Israel. But who they are is still a mystery. Their origin has also been proposed and strongly disputed to be Trojan, from Italy, Philistine or Minoa. However, nothing has been discovered so far to shed more light on the question of their origin. Whether all this is true or not, the fact remains that the Sea People's origins are not written in any records, and that information is therefore lost to history. What did they want? Equally mysterious is the motivation of the Sea People to ravage the Mediterranean. Some historians believe that they were displaced from their original home by natural disaster or famine. Other researchers speculate that their migration was a result of a more human disaster, war. It states that the Sea People were Trojans displaced after they lost their kingdom to the Greeks in the Trojan battle. Whether the Trojan War story is true or is just a mythical story is unknown. The Sea People attacked many cities and Mediterranean settlements, but seemingly had an affinity for Egypt, attacking 3 different pharaohs. Their intentions for an attack, however, despite much research, remains a mystery to this day. What happened once they took over Egypt? Even though their origin remains unknown, tantalising pieces of information about the terror that the Sea People inflicted on the ancient worlds are available, thanks to the inscriptions the witnesses of the devastation left. Most of the current studies of the Sea People come from the inscriptions left behind from Ramesses III's reign. Emmanuel Deroux, a French Egyptologist, came up with the term Sea People in 1855, but reports claimed that they originated from the sea or islands, but did not specify the particular ones. There were 3 pharaohs who recorded their interaction with these raiders: Ramesses II, Merenta, who was his son and successor, and Ramesses III. All 3 pharaohs were victorious over their enemies, and their inscriptions provided more detail about the existence of the Sea People. Ramesses II's inscriptions. Ramesses II was one of the greatest rulers of ancient Egyptian history, with accomplishments including securing his borders from invasion by nomads and also securing trade routes that were vital to their economy. In his inscriptions, he mentions the Sea People as allies of the Hittites and mercenaries in his own army. He does not mention anything about their identity or where they came from. Ramesses inscribed his victory over the Sea People in a war off the Egyptian coast. According to what he inscribed, the battle involved only the Sharon tribe of the Sea People, and after the war, many were recruited into Ramesses' own army. In his inscriptions, Ramesses made the impression that he neutralized the threat. However, his successor's inscriptions claimed otherwise. The inscription of Merenta. The Sea People troubled Merenta's reign, especially after they allied with the Libyans in the Nile Delta invasion. From his inscriptions, in his 5th year at around 1209 BC, the Libyan chief allied with the Sea People invading Egypt. He stated the Libyan allies as originating from the seas to the north, naming their territories as Sharon, the Deianne, the Lucca, the Peliset, the Shekelesh, the Tertia, and the Akawasha. Since then, researchers have tried to find out where the mentioned lands were and what they are currently known as. Merenta describes the Sea People in his inscriptions as formidable adversaries and took pride in defeating them. He claimed complete victory over the Sea People, securing the Egyptian borders. He celebrated his victory by immortalizing its inscription in the Merenta stele, announcing how he brought peace to his land by subduing the enemy. The Merenta stele is the first to mention Israel in history, but interestingly, he was referring to a people and not a land or a country, and scholars are still not certain of implication of this reference. Merenta was satisfied for defeating these raiders and securing the Egyptian borders for the future. He did not know that the Sea People would return. Ramesses III inscription. During the reign of Ramesses III, these raiders attacked the Kadesh trading center of Egypt, destroying it, and then attempted to invade Egypt. They started with quick raids at the coast before entering the delta. In 1180 BC, Ramesses III was victorious over them, but they forcefully came back. The countries he mentioned in the Sea People's Confederation are not certain. However, it's clear that they are the same people who joined the Libyans to attack Egypt during Merenta's reign. Where did they go afterward? Ramesses III knew of the clashes of the Sea People with his predecessors and opted for guerrilla tactics instead of field engagements with his predecessors. He organized ambushes along the coast and down the Nile Delta, hiding his archers along the shore so they could rain arrows on the ships when he gave the signal. After confirming that no crew on the ship were alive, they set the downing vessels on fire with flaming arrows. After crushing the sea attacks, Ramesses III focused on what was left of the Sea People on land. He used the same tactics and finally defeated the Sea People in 1178 BC. After being defeated by Ramesses III, the Sea People disappeared from history. However, according to San Jose State University, the Egyptians allowed the remaining Sea People to settle in today's Israel and Palestine. Despite the win over the Sea People, the war was too expensive and it drained the Egyptian royal treasury, rendering it unable to pay its tomb builders. This resulted in the first recorded labour strike in history, where the workers refused to work until they were fully paid.
The legend of Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, has been around for centuries. Tales of a large, hairy, bipedal creature roaming the wilderness have fascinated and terrified people for generations. While many sightings of Bigfoot have been reported throughout North America, some of the most intriguing accounts come from Yellowstone National Park. In 2015, a hiker claimed to have spotted Bigfoot while hiking in Yellowstone. The witness described a large, ape-like creature with shaggy hair and an estimated height of over 7 feet. The sighting occurred near the park's Old Faithful Geyser, a popular tourist attraction. The rangers attempted to track the creature, but lost it in the dense forest. Despite their extensive search, they were never able to find any evidence of the creature. While some may dismiss these sightings as tall tales or hoaxes, many people believe in the existence of the creature. The individual reported feeling both exhilarated and frightened by the experience. While this sighting may seem far-fetched to some, it is not the first time that the creature has been reported in Yellowstone. In fact, there have been several reports of Sasquatch sightings in the park over the years. Many of these sightings have been dismissed as hoaxes or misidentifications of other animals, but some remain unexplained. One of the most famous Bigfoot sightings in Yellowstone occurred in the 1970s. 2 park rangers were on patrol when they spotted a large, hairy creature walking through the woods. They described the creature as being over 7 feet tall, with long arms and a powerful build. Some researchers have dedicated their lives to studying and investigating reports of the creature, and point to the fact that many different cultures around the world have legends of a large, hairy creature similar to Bigfoot, and argue that there must be some truth to the stories. In addition to eyewitness accounts, there is some physical evidence that suggests the creature is in fact genuine. Footprints attributed to the creature have been found in many locations throughout North America, including Yellowstone. These footprints are often much larger than those of any known animal, and appear to show a distinct pattern of 5 toes and a mid-tarsal break, a feature not found in other primates. Despite the intriguing evidence and numerous sightings, there is still no concrete proof of the creature's existence. Many skeptics argue that the creature is simply a myth, and that the reported sightings are either hoaxes or misidentifications of other animals. Others argue that Bigfoot is a real flesh and blood creature, but that it has managed to evade capture and scientific study due to its elusive nature. While the truth about the creature may never be known, the legend of this mysterious creature continues to captivate and intrigue people around the world. Yellowstone National Park, with its vast wilderness and remote locations, remains a popular destination for those hoping to catch a glimpse of Sasquatch. Whether the sightings are real or not, the stories of these creatures in Yellowstone will continue to be passed down for generations to come. Interestingly, one Yellowstone National Park ranger shared their encounter on social media. It was a typical day for Ranger Jackson as he patrolled the grounds of Yellowstone National Park. He had seen his fair share of wildlife encounters, from grizzly bears to mountain lions, but what he saw next would shake him to his core. As he was walking through a dense wooded area, he noticed something moving in the distance. It was a large, hairy creature walking on two legs. At first, Jackson thought it might be a bear, but as it got closer, he realized it was something much more unusual. The creature was covered in thick brown hair and stood at least 8 feet tall. Its arms were long and muscular, and its face was covered in fur. It had deep-set, dark eyes that seemed to stare right through Jackson. He froze, unsure of what to do. The creature didn't seem aggressive, but it was definitely not something he had ever seen before. As it got closer, he could see that it was a Bigfoot, a creature that many people believed only existed in myths and legends. Jackson watched in awe as the creature passed by him, heading deeper into the woods. He couldn't believe what he had just seen, as he had always been skeptical of Bigfoot sightings, but now he was convinced that they were real. Over the next few days, Jackson couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. He knew that he needed to report it to his superiors, but he was worried about how they would react. After all, these sightings were not something that they typically dealt with in the park. Eventually, he decided to come forward with his story, and he was surprised to find that his superiors were more open-minded than he had expected. In fact, they had received other reports of Bigfoot sightings in the park over the years, but had never been able to confirm them. The park authorities decided to investigate further, setting up cameras and traps in the area where Jackson had seen the creature. They hoped to get photographic evidence of Bigfoot's existence, but their efforts were in vain. Despite their best efforts, no further sightings of the creature was reported. Jackson continued to patrol the grounds, always on the lookout for any signs of the elusive creature. Years passed, and Jackson eventually retired from the park service, but he never forgot the encounter he had with the creature. He knew that he had seen something truly special, something that most people would never have the chance to witness. To this day, Jackson still visits the park from time to time, hoping to catch another glimpse of the creature that had captivated him all those years ago. The earliest report of one of these creatures dates back to the late 19th century. The incident occurred in the area of Ape Canyon, near the base of Mount St. Helens in the state of Washington. The story goes that in 1924, a group of miners were prospecting in the mountains when they claimed to have had an encounter with a group of large, hairy creatures. The miners reported seeing footprints that measured 16 inches in length and 7 inches in width, and were believed to have been made by the creatures. The miners claimed that they were able to follow the footprints for a distance of about 5 miles, and during that time they reported hearing strange noises, such as whoops and screams, coming from the surrounding forest. They also claimed that they saw the creatures at a distance, and that they were covered in long, dark hair. The miners' story became widely publicized in the local newspapers, and it was eventually picked up by the national media. The incident helped to spark interest in the existence of the creature, and led to many other reported sightings of the creature in the years that followed. However, it is worth noting that the story has been met with skepticism by many researchers, who have pointed out inconsistencies in the miners' accounts. For example, some have questioned the fact that the miners claimed to have followed the footprints for such a long distance, given that the area was covered in dense forest and difficult terrain. Despite these doubts, the incident remains an important part of the creature's lore and has contributed to the ongoing fascination. In the years since the Ape Canyon incident, numerous other sightings of the creature have been reported, and many researchers continue to investigate the possibility of its existence. In addition to the Ape Canyon incident, there have been other early reports of Bigfoot, including accounts from Native American tribes in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States. These tribes have long had their own legends and stories about the creature, which they refer to by various names, including Sasquatch and Skookum. One of the most well-known of these legends is the story of the Wild Man of the Woods, which was said to inhabit the forests of the Pacific Northwest. According to the legend, the creature was covered in long, shaggy hair and had a foul odor. It was also said to be very elusive and would only rarely be seen by humans. These early reports of Bigfoot have helped to fuel the ongoing fascination with the creature and have inspired many researchers to continue investigating its existence. Due to the creature's odor, it's caused some researchers to suggest that these are some of the earliest reports of the skunk ape. This large creature is a humanoid believed to inhabit the southeastern United States, particularly in the swamps and wetlands of Florida. The creature is said to be similar in appearance to Bigfoot, but with longer hair and a distinct odor that earned it its nickname. Despite numerous sightings and alleged evidence, the existence of the skunk ape remains unproven, and many skeptics consider it to be a product of folklore. The first recorded sighting of the creature occurred in the late 19th century, when a group of hunters claimed to have seen a large, hairy creature in the Florida wilderness. Since then, there have been numerous sightings and reports of encounters with the creature. Many witnesses describe it as being between 6 and 8 feet tall, with a muscular build and a distinctively foul odor, which some speculate may be a defense mechanism against predators. In addition to eyewitness accounts, there have been several alleged pieces of physical evidence associated with the skunk ape. Footprints claimed to belong to the creature have been found throughout the southeastern United States, with some measuring up to 17 inches in length. In 2000, a grainy video emerged that purported to show the creature in the Florida Everglades. However, the video has been criticized for being unclear and inconclusive. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of the skunk ape continues to persist in Florida and throughout the southeastern United States. Some people have even gone so far as to dedicate their lives to researching the creature and gathering evidence of its existence. However, skeptics argue that the skunk ape is simply a product of folklore, and they point out that many supposed sightings of the creature are from unreliable witnesses or have alternative explanations, such as misidentified animals or hoaxes perpetrated by individuals seeking attention or profit. In addition, they note that despite decades of alleged sightings and evidence, no conclusive proof of the creature's existence has ever been found. As of right now, despite numerous sightings and alleged evidence, its existence remains unproven, and many skeptics remain unconvinced. These creatures have been a topic of interest and speculation for decades. Reports of sightings of the creature have been recorded all over the world, but it seems that Bigfoot encounters in national parks are more common than in any other location. The vast and remote wilderness areas of national parks, with their rugged terrain and dense forests, provide a perfect habitat for the elusive creature. Sightings in national parks are usually reported by hikers, campers, and park rangers. These encounters vary from brief sightings of the creature to more prolonged and detailed observations. While some encounters are frightening and disturbing, others are more benign, with the creature simply being observed from a distance. One common way the creature is encountered in national parks is through tracks or footprints left behind. These tracks are often found in remote areas, away from established trails and roads, and can be difficult to locate. However, when they are found, they provide compelling evidence of the creature's existence. Park rangers and researchers often investigate these tracks, taking plaster casts and measurements, and analyzing them to try to learn more about the creature's behavior and movements. Another way the creature is encountered in national parks is through vocalizations. These sounds can be heard at night when the forest is quiet, and they are often described as high-pitched screams or howls. While some of these vocalizations may be attributed to known animals, others are more mysterious and unexplainable. Some park rangers have even reported seeing the creature with their own eyes. These sightings are usually brief and happen at a distance, with the creature quickly disappearing into the dense forest. Park rangers are often trained in wildlife observation and can identify many animals by their behavior and characteristics, but these creatures remain an enigma. There are also reports of them stealing food and other supplies from campsites in national parks. These encounters are usually frightening for campers, who may wake up in the middle of the night to find their food and gear scattered around the campsite. However, these incidents are rare and are more likely to be caused by other animals, such as bears or raccoons. It is important to note that not all encounters in national parks are real. Many reports are hoaxes or misidentifications of known animals. However, there are a significant number of encounters that are credible and have been investigated by park rangers and researchers. As of right now, these encounters in national parks are fascinating and add to the mystique surrounding the elusive creature. While there is no conclusive evidence of the creature's existence, the reports of encounters in national parks provide an intriguing glimpse into the mysteries of the wilderness. As more research is conducted, perhaps one day we will have definitive proof of its existence.
National Park Service finds Rudy Moda, hiker missing for 38 years. Even the most experienced of adventurers take an enormous amount of risk when they venture out into the wilderness, and it's impossible to know for sure what dangers or freak accidents might lurk around the corner, especially for those who prefer to wander intentionally into the dangers of the beaten path. Rudy Moda was one of these brave explorers who unfortunately met an untimely end as the result of misfortune met on a ski mountaineering trip. Moda was a West German man living in Fort Collins, Colorado at the time of his disappearance in 1983. He was an avid outdoorsman and was experienced in navigating the backwoods of the area, so when he embarked on a 2 to 3 night ski mountaineering trip, nobody thought anything of it at first. He left for the Zimmerman Lake trailhead near Cameron Pass with intentions of crossing Thunder Pass into Rocky Mountain National Park, but his journey was never completed, and his roommate reported him missing when he had not been seen or heard from 6 days later. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched to attempt to locate the missing man alive, but over a foot of fresh snow had recently fallen, greatly slowing the rescue efforts and dimming what hope the team had. The team searched for 4 days with increasing desperation, and although they were able to find signs of the missing hiker and locate his food cache, some gear, and a snow cave that he had likely made to seek shelter from the snowstorm that had passed through, they were unable to locate the man himself. Eventually, the searches were called off, and although fresh efforts were made once the snow melted in the spring, no further clues or remains were ever found. His family in Germany were left without answers or any form of closure regarding his disappearance, making the mourning process even more painful. However, 38 years after the fateful hiking trip that cost Moda his life, a hiker passing through avalanche debris near Rocky Mountain National Park's Skeleton Canyon area noticed skeletal remains among the disturbed rocks and vegetation. An investigation began to attempt to determine who the remains belonged to, but was closed shortly after its inception due to the National Park Service's redistribution of resources once a massive wildfire began to encroach on the west side of the park. Once the snowmelt retreated from the area the following year, they were able to reopen the investigation and recover the remains, as well as ski equipment and personal items that belonged to Moda. His identity was confirmed by a German forensic coroner, and the National Park Service worked with the German government to quickly repatriate the remains so that Rudy Moda's family could provide him with a proper burial after almost 4 decades of mystery. Moda's disappearance is a reminder that, although millions of people traipse through national parks every year, at the end of the day, they are nothing more than untamed wilderness, and it's entirely possible for a body to go missing within its depths and remain unrecovered and unknown for 38 years or longer. Morgan Heimer. Morgan Heimer was a student at the University of Wyoming, studying English. In the summer of 2015, aged 22, Morgan took a job as a commercial guide for a rafting company, Tour West. It was on an 8-day-long group trip that he went missing, and devastatingly, he is yet to be seen since. As I am sure you would expect of someone working with a rafting company, Morgan was a strong swimmer, had an impressive working knowledge of the river, and was a seasoned outdoorsman. Despite all these skills under his belt, they seemingly were not enough to keep the students safe on the riverside. The last known sighting of Morgan was on June 2, 2015 by River Mile 213 in the Grand Canyon National Park near to Pumpkin Springs. He reportedly mentioned to the lead guide of the day that he wanted to take a break that afternoon, to have some time to himself. When the lead guide later returned from discussing something with a client, Morgan had left. Simply assuming he had gone on the break, as had been discussed, no immediate red flags were raised by the group. His last sighting was around 4 p.m, and he was reported missing by 7:26 p.m. that very same day. Suspicions had been raised when he didn't return to the group for dinner following their swimming and other activities. At the time, when the search was initially being conducted, people were incredibly optimistic. It's unfortunately all too common to fail to find people when they have gone astray from their intended and planned routes. The rescue teams knew of Morgenheimer's skill sets and absolutely held out hope. Some said he definitely has the skills and ability to perform the job and be a person we have a high likelihood to find. Following a thorough 6-day-long search of the surrounding areas, many people assumed that he had drowned. Employees, clients, and other members of this group were all interviewed, though there was never any evidence found that anyone knew any helpful information or could have been maliciously involved. So what happened? Did he slip, fall, and drown? Did he get lost wandering through the wilderness? It certainly seems unusual for the tour guide to not be familiar with the area, or at least not be aware of which areas he does and does not know. Some internet theorists have speculated that he is lost within an intricate network of doorways, passageways, and paths through the Grand Canyon. Some emphasizing the dangers of overconfidence, and others truly implying otherworldly, supernatural explanations. Michael Fissery, Yosemite National Park. 51-year-old Michael Allen Fissery, avid hiker, sadly took his last hike on June 15, 2005 in the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir in Yosemite National Park. He had planned the solo journey to cover Rancheria Falls, Till Mountain, and Lake Vernon. Fissery was last seen heading up towards the mountain on the Pacific Crest Trail. His family became concerned when he did not arrive back home on June 19th. This date marked 4 days since Fissery embarked on the hike, and also the day his wilderness permit expired. 2 days later, on June 21st, his family phoned the Park Service and the search had begun. The search consisted of professionals from 5 counties and included aerial searches and rescue dogs. The only thing ever uncovered by the search was a backpack found near Till Mountain, with a topographical map, camera, and bottle of water. Fisseroy is still missing to this day, and as of 2018 remained on the National Park Service's cold cases list. On April 5th, 2012, 7 years after Fissery's disappearance, a comment was displayed in the National Park's Traveller. The author claimed to be Michael's brother, who warns readers about precautions his brother seemed to be missing on his journey. The comment reads, "Michael Fissery, the hiker mentioned above who disappeared in Yosemite in 2005, was my brother. While Michael was never reliant upon technology, I firmly believe he was not adequately prepared for his hike in terms of the equipment he did carry. He apparently deviated from his planned route, which made the search much more difficult. I strongly recommend all hikers to consult any variety of pack lists found on the internet, focusing on the 10 essentials. Please make sure to leave a planned itinerary with at least one person and stick to it. Please, if only for the sake of those who are waiting for you at home, do not attempt even a day hike without being adequately prepared." While Fissery's lack of supplies remains a plausible contributor to circumstances of his loss of life, the lack of evidence is odd. The Park Service spent $452,000 on running a comprehensive search, only to end with only one clue. Searches like this often turn up clothes, equipment, or remains. It is also strange that a backpacker with more than 30 years of wilderness experience would leave behind a backpack. So far, no one has been able to offer sufficient motivation for why Fissery would have abandoned supplies in the first place.
The mystery of the sunken city of Cuba. Just over 10 years ago, a team of explorers embarked on an exploration and survey mission along the western coast of Cuba. During their expedition, their advanced sonar equipment detected a perplexing array of stone structures situated approximately 650 meters beneath the ocean surface. These structures stood out amidst the otherwise barren ocean floor, exhibiting a symmetrical arrangement of stones reminiscent of an organized urban development. The discovery instantly captured the attention of the media, which quickly generated headlines like "Atlantis discovered in Cuba" and "Lost City of the Caribbean found." The significance of the finding prompted the involvement of the government, National Museum, and National Geographic, all of whom pledged to thoroughly investigate these intriguing sonar images. Despite the initial excitement surrounding the discovery, however, the story eventually faded into obscurity as the general public's attention shifted elsewhere. Now, after a decade has passed, the remarkable finding remains largely unexplored, with little follow-up investigation conducted. The fate of these enigmatic underwater structures and their potential historical significance remains a mystery awaiting further exploration and examination. In the year 2001, an intriguing discovery was brought to light by Pauline Zalitsky and her husband Paul Weinsweig, who were both esteemed marine engineers and the owners of the Canadian company Advanced Digital Communications. The couple was actively engaged in a survey mission, collaborating with the Cuban government near the Guanahaca-Bibes Peninsula in the Pinar del Rio province of Cuba. This particular undertaking stemmed from a joint venture between Advanced Digital Communications and 3 other firms, all operating under the supervision of President Fidel Castro's administration, with the objective of exploring the abundance of Spanish colonial-era ships laden with treasures within Cuban waters. Throughout their expedition, the team employed cutting-edge sonar equipment to meticulously scan an expansive 2-square-kilometer area on the ocean floor. While conducting these scans, their attention was immediately captured by a remarkable sight, a seemingly intricate assemblage of stone structures exhibiting symmetrical and geometric patterns resembling nothing less than a complex urban settlement. This enthralling discovery left the team awe-inspired, igniting a fervent desire to unravel the secrets encapsulated within these enigmatic formations. With unwavering dedication and meticulous attention to detail, the team set out to explore the depths of this submerged city, unearthing a treasure trove of knowledge and historical significance that would reshape our understanding of the region. After carefully examining the sonar images, Zalitsky made a fascinating discovery. He noticed the presence of extraordinary formations characterized by sleek blocks, majestic crests, and intricate geometric shapes. These formations held a sense of mystery and intrigue. Surprisingly, some of the blocks took the form of pyramids, meticulously constructed with precision and purpose. In July 2001, they revisited the location accompanied by geologist Manuel Iturralde, a senior researcher at Cuba's Natural History Museum. This time, they were equipped with a remotely operated vehicle to thoroughly investigate and document the intriguing structures. The captured footage unveiled the presence of sizable stone blocks, resembling finely crafted granite, with dimensions of approximately 8 feet by 10 feet. These blocks exhibited 2 distinct arrangements. Some were intentionally stacked upon one another, while others stood separately from the rest. Zalitsky cautiously speculated that these images possibly showcased the remnants of a sunken city. However, he refrained from drawing any definitive conclusions, emphasizing the need for further evidence to support such claims. This meticulous exploration, facilitated by advanced technology, provided a comprehensive and detailed understanding of the underwater formations and offered captivating insights into the potential existence of a submerged civilization. According to estimations, the submerged structures in question would have taken approximately 50,000 years to sink to the depth at which they were discovered. These findings have led Iturralde, an expert in the field, to suggest that there was no architectural capability among known cultures at that time to construct such complex buildings. A specialist in underwater archaeology from Florida State University further supports this notion, stating that it would be quite extraordinary if these structures were indeed built during that particular time frame, as they exhibit a level of advancement that surpasses anything typically observed in the New World. Therefore, it can be concluded that these structures seem to be anomalous, both in terms of their chronological placement and geographic location. In the aftermath of the groundbreaking discovery, the media frenzy surrounding it prompted various news outlets to draw connections between the find and the legendary lost city of Atlantis. However, the individuals spearheading the exploration, Zalitsky and Weinsweig, were hesitant to endorse such comparisons. Zalitsky categorically dismissed the notion, asserting that the uncovered remnants were more likely evidence of a local civilization that once thrived on a 100-mile land bridge connecting Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba. Iturralde further contributed to this perspective by highlighting the existence of local legends among the Maya and native Yucatecos, which spoke of an island inhabited by their ancestors that had mysteriously vanished into the depths of the sea. Despite these accounts, Iturralde remained open to the possibility that the intriguing rock formations could simply be a product of the extraordinary forces of nature. Despite the widespread coverage by numerous media outlets discussing sunken cities, advanced civilizations, the mythical lost city of Atlantis, and submerged ruins, there exist individuals who remain skeptical about this perspective. These skeptics are hesitant to embrace the idea of submerged civilizations and question the validity of such claims. The hasty dismissal of the narrative has raised doubts about whether there was a deliberate suppression of information pertaining to the discovery. It remains uncertain whether the leads simply fizzled out naturally or if there was an intentional effort to conceal what we stumbled upon. Unfortunately, the truth behind this remains elusive, denying us the opportunity to ever truly grasp it. The Azores Pyramid. Pyramids, fascinating and enigmatic structures, have been erected in various locations around the globe. While their presence above ground is already intriguing, the mysteries that lie beneath the surface are even more captivating. Throughout history, civilizations across different continents have constructed these remarkable monuments, each with its own distinct characteristics and cultural significance. A remarkable discovery was recently made in the waters around the beautiful islands of São Miguel and Terceira in the Azores. This fascinating finding was brought to light by none other than Diocleciano Silva, an individual who happened to stumble upon a remarkable structure while enjoying a fishing expedition. Utilizing the highly advanced bathymetric equipment available on board the ship, Silva's attention was immediately captured by the presence of this extraordinary formation. This discovery has captivated the attention of researchers and experts who are now delving deep into its mysteries and significance. He was mesmerized by the sight of an impeccably designed structure, causing him to question the nature of his surroundings. To his amazement, the structure revealed itself as a flawless pyramid. The precision and orientation of this pyramid were truly remarkable, with its vertices aligned precisely along the north-south axis, reminiscent of the famed Giza pyramids in Egypt. In an interview with the Portuguese news website Terra, Silva expressed his awe, stating that it's truly remarkable how this structure forms a perfect pyramid. The resemblance to the orientation and deployment of the Giza pyramids is uncanny. This discovery left Silva in awe of the mysteries hidden beneath the surface, urging him to explore further and uncover the secrets that lay within. The pyramid, without a doubt, stands out as an unmistakably man-made structure, and its estimated age is believed to be around 12 to 20,000 years, dating back to the era of the last ice age. However, limited research has been conducted specifically on the pyramid itself, leaving many intriguing aspects unexplored. It is interesting to note that the Portuguese Navy has dismissed the pyramid as a mere seamount based on previous sonar readings in the vicinity. To delve deeper into the subject, we will examine various aspects of the pyramid's origins, construction techniques, and the possible reasons behind its existence. No investigative team has physically visited the location to examine the true nature of this phenomenon. According to Admiral Fernando Pires, an esteemed figure in the Navy and the commander of the maritime zone of Azores, the available information regarding the pyramid is insufficient to make a definite determination about its actual identity and purpose. This leaves us with lingering questions and a desire for a more thorough understanding of the subject. It is imperative to gather concrete evidence and conduct in-depth research to unravel the mysteries surrounding this enigmatic structure. According to Pires, during that period, the probes posed a potential threat to navigation, but their exploration yielded no significant findings. Piers further suggests that the possibility of a volcanic eruption cannot be completely ruled out as the cause of this entire structure, which would then classify it as a typical underwater land formation. However, no concrete investigation has been conducted in this regard, and subsequent expeditions have been terminated. It's worth noting that there are no known civilizations in proximity, either locally or remotely, that can be attributed to the construction of pyramids traditionally associated with such societies. During the excavation of the site, archaeologists had the fortunate opportunity to uncover a multitude of fascinating historical artifacts. These included an epigraph from the Roman era, remnants of Carthaginian sanctuaries, captivating cave art, and intriguing megalithic structures. Despite the fact that the government has made certain decisions regarding this site and the Navy has somewhat avoided the matter, it is advisable for researchers to acknowledge their explanation that it is simply a volcanic underwater structure. However, as pointed out by researchers, various submerged underwater civilizations have been found over the years, and despite the fact that humans have existed for almost 200,000 years, our understanding of underwater exploration is limited. While the exact figures may differ slightly depending on the data provided by different agencies, it is estimated that we have explored and mapped only approximately 20% of the vast ocean, and our direct physical encounters and visits have been limited to a mere 5%, meaning 95% of our oceans have not been explored by humans. Because of this, many researchers have put forward the idea that many ancient civilizations have been lost to the depths. United States fighter pilot Milton Torres was ordered to take down an unidentified object. On the evening of May 20, 1957, a young and courageous 25-year-old United States Air Force fighter pilot named Milton Torres was given a crucial mission while stationed at RAF Manston in the Serene County of Kent, England. His objective was to intercept an unknown aircraft that was exhibiting erratic flight patterns over the vast expanse of eastern England and the North Sea. The ground radar operators diligently tracked this mysterious object, observing its baffling behavior as it seemed to remain motionless for extended periods of time, and suddenly accelerated to astonishing speeds exceeding 7,600 miles per hour. Given the tense climate of the Cold War era, the presence of an unidentified aircraft conducting unpredictable maneuvers in Western airspace naturally triggered a substantial concern amongst military personnel and authorities alike. This extraordinary incident undoubtedly demanded thorough investigation and analysis. Torres received a directive to intercept an unidentified flying object using a fully equipped F-86D Sabre aircraft while flying over the expansive North Sea at top speed, which is approximately 700 miles per hour. As the pilot approached the object at an altitude of 32,000 feet, an immense challenge arose due to the prevailing cloudy and pitch-black conditions, rendering visibility extremely poor. Consequently, Torres found himself engulfed in darkness, unable to perceive any objects, including the enigmatic UFO, which remained elusive. To address this predicament, he resorted to fumbling with a flashlight within the confines of his cockpit. However, it is crucial to note that during this episode, both ground radar and airborne radar were concurrently monitoring and tracking the movements of the mysterious object. Torres said the following about the encounter. "There it was exactly where I was told it would be at 30 degrees and at 15 miles. The blip was burning a hole in the radar with its incredible intensity. It was similar to a blip I had received from B-52s and seemed to be a magnet of light. These things I remember very clearly. I ran the range gate marker over the blip, and the jizzle band faded as the marker superimposed over the blip. I had a lock-on that had the proportions of a flying aircraft carrier. By that I mean the return on the radar was so strong that it could not be overlooked by the fire control system on the F-86D. The fighter not being a good return is very difficult, and on that type aircraft, a lock-on was only possible under 10 miles. The larger the airplane, the easier the lock-on. This blip almost locked itself. I cannot explain to the layperson exactly what I mean, save to say that it was the best target I could ever remember locking onto. I had locked on in just a few seconds, and I locked on exactly 15 miles, which was the maximum for a lock-on." End quote. Torres experienced an overwhelming sense of fear and anxiety as he found himself rapidly approaching the mysterious object, hurtling through the vastness of the sky at an astonishing velocity of 900 miles per hour. However, just when he thought he was getting closer, at a mere 10 seconds away from intercept, the unidentified flying object suddenly altered its trajectory, veering off in a different direction and effortlessly outpacing the capabilities of the radar system. Both the ground control and the airborne radar were in agreement, providing confirmation that the object had swiftly accelerated beyond the radar's measurement capabilities. As a result, the enigmatic craft vanished from sight, vanishing into the vast expanse over the North Sea. In another part of the country, Dave Robertson, a skilled pilot in the United States Air Force, found himself engaged in a routine training flight aboard the same aircraft. However, he was unexpectedly given instructions to land his plane at RAF Bentwaters, where preparations were being made to arm it with rockets. The purpose of this sudden change of plans was to enable Robertson to intercept an unidentified aircraft that had been detected in the area. Under the guidance of air traffic control, Robertson embarked on a pursuit of the mysterious aircraft, soaring over the picturesque region of East Anglia. However, he encountered considerable difficulty maintaining consistent radar contact with the object due to its astonishing speed and erratic maneuvers. Despite the prevailing clear weather conditions, Robertson was unable to visually spot the enigmatic craft throughout the entirety of the chase. Robert Perry Bissell's mysterious disappearance in the enigmatic Roaring River wilderness. Nestled in the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, the Roaring River wilderness area, located within the western state of Oregon, has become a hotspot for perplexing and unexplainable disappearances of hikers and campers visiting the region. One such impossible-to-explain disappearance case is that of an experienced outdoorsman by the name of Robert Perry Bissell, who was reported missing by his family sometime on the 24th of July, back in 2012. Known for its pristine natural beauty, the wilderness area is located on the western end of the Mount Hood National Forest, approximately 15 miles from downtown Portland. With its wilderness designation, the region prohibits motor vehicles and safeguards the old-growth trees from logging. Despite being an experienced backpacker and familiar with the area, Robert's disappearance has baffled search and rescue teams. This article delves into the mysterious circumstances surrounding Robert's vanishing, the intensive search efforts that followed, and the puzzling aspects of the Roaring River wilderness. Situated on the western fringes of the Mount Hood National Forest, the Roaring River wilderness area is a captivating natural landscape that encompasses dense forests, pristine lakes, and rugged terrain. Spanning approximately 15 miles south of the Washington state border and within proximity to Portland, this designated wilderness offers an escape from the bustling urban life. The absence of motor vehicles and logging activities has preserved the area's untouched beauty, allowing hikers and nature enthusiasts to immerse themselves in the serene surroundings. Aerial views reveal the contrasting sight of logging activities in the vicinity, emphasizing the significance of the protected old-growth trees within the Roaring River wilderness, which made it the ideal location for experienced outdoorsman Robert Perry Bissell to travel to and enjoy during his free time. It would be on the 12th of July, back in 2010, that Robert Perry Bissell would set out from his personal residence, located on 30th Avenue in the city of Portland, Oregon, a couple hours' drive away, and begin embarking on a fishing trip to Shell Rock Lake and the Rock Lakes Basin. Driving his distinctive 1989 white Nissan Sentra with chrome wheel fenders, he arrived at the trailhead near the wilderness area, less than a couple miles from where he would eventually be camped during his short fishing trip. Equipped with his backpack and fishing gear, Robert hiked to Middle Rock Lake, a tranquil spot situated between Upper and Lower Rock Lakes at elevations ranging from 4,200 to 4,400 feet. The South Fork of the Roaring River originates between Lower and Middle Rock Lakes, enhancing the allure of the picturesque setting. Choosing a peaceful grove of large trees, Robert pitched his tent, leaving behind other supplies while carrying only his fishing pole and tackle box. As the days passed, Robert's brother Michael grew worried when he failed to locate Robert at Middle Rock Lake on the 19th of July after venturing out to the area to find his missing brother. It would be at this time that Michael would discover Robert's tent, which appears to have been in a good condition and showed that Robert had only recently stepped away from his tent. After waiting at the tent for an hour and failing to see his brother return back to the tent, Michael would decide to head back home, as he was comforted that Robert's stuff appeared to have been fine and the condition of his tent appearing new. Leaving a note on Robert's Nissan at the trailhead, Michael urged Robert that when he returns to his vehicle and finds the note, he should immediately reach out to contact the family to let them know he's safe, as they were growing increasingly worried at his lack of contact. However, when Robert did not respond after another 5 days, Michael ventured back into the wilderness and discovered Robert's tent exactly as he had seen it 5 days earlier, undisturbed. Concerned for his brother's safety, Michael immediately contacted the United States Forest Service and the Clackamas County Sheriff, reporting Robert as a missing person. The authorities wasted no time and initiated a search operation on the 25th of July, focusing on the Middle Rock Lake area. With the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office leading the search efforts, an intense operation unfolded in the rugged terrain of the Roaring River Wilderness. The search commander recognized the challenges posed by the unforgiving landscape, with horses used in the search even encountering difficulties, necessitating their removal from the area due to thrown shoes. Nonetheless, the dedicated search teams persisted, undeterred by the arduous conditions. The Oregon National Guard was called upon to provide aerial support, deploying helicopters to conduct extensive reconnaissance flights over the lakes region. Despite hours spent scanning the area from the air, no unusual sights were observed. Ground search teams meticulously combed the rocky terrain, enduring countless hours of exhaustive efforts. Over 200 individuals from various organizations, including search and rescue teams, law enforcement agencies, and volunteers, joined forces to locate Robert Perry Bissell. Despite the extensive search operation spanning slightly more than 11 days, no substantial clues leading to Robert's whereabouts emerged. Searchers discovered Robert's tent, capturing a photograph of it, but curiously, his fishing pole and tackle box were conspicuously absent. Inside the tent, all the expected camping gear and supplies were intact, as one would anticipate from someone spending time in the wilderness. The absence of any signs of struggle or disturbance in the campsite perplexed investigators. Bloodhounds, renowned for their tracking abilities, failed to pick up Robert's scent, adding to the enigma surrounding his disappearance. The lack of footprints or any discernible tracks or evidence within the surrounding area compounded the mystery further. The baffling circumstances surrounding Robert Perry Bissell's disappearance and the subsequent search effort left investigators and the public grappling with unanswered questions. The absence of predatory animal attacks and the lack of any significant leads deepened the intrigue of this case. As the search continued, comparisons were drawn to other perplexing disappearances in the nearby Larch Mountain region, just 10 miles north of Robert's last known location. The Cascade Mountain Range, stretching from Oregon to Washington, had become notorious for its unusual and unexplained vanishings, defying rational explanations. Despite the passage of time, Robert Perry Bissell's case remains an open investigation, with his name listed in the National Missing Persons Database. Flyers and information about his disappearance continue to circulate, and the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office diligently follows up on any tips or leads that may shed light on his whereabouts. The wilderness that claimed Robert's presence continues to captivate the imagination, reminding us of the elusive nature of certain mysteries. The mystery of Joshua Lewis Karna. Harriman State Park, a vast and enigmatic expanse of wilderness that rests nestled between the murky depths of several large bodies of water, stands shrouded in an eerie ambience. Situated an estimated 10 miles west of the Wyoming border and roughly 6 miles south of Island Park, this otherworldly reserve is imbued with a borderline supernatural aura, as a large number of strange disappearances appear to be centered around the area. Spanning a staggering 16,000 acres, the location is considered to be one of the least popular wildlife parks within the Yellowstone ecosystem, found just west of the renowned national park. Despite its lower popularity, the strange number of disappearances only continue to grow. According to one such report, it was on a fateful afternoon of the 13th of July, back in 1990, when Richard and Jackie Lewis, accompanied by their young son Joshua, ventured into the heart of this enigmatic realm and suffered a terrible tragedy. According to the couple, the group was visiting the area for a family reunion, which had often visited the location in the past and preferred the serenity of Yellowstone's less frequented spots. However, according to the family, it would be within the span of only a few minutes that their son, Joshua Lewis Karna, believed to be only 2 at the time, somehow vanished from their sight and was nowhere to be found, with no evidence where the child had disappeared off to. Investigators who questioned members of the family believed that it would be about an hour into the party that Joshua Lewis Karna was last seen by family members sitting on a camping bench. Less than a few minutes later, Karna's parents were unable to locate where he was and began their search for the boy. Initially, the parents called out to Joshua and walked around the open campgrounds, but when the entire family soon realized that the boy was nowhere to be found, they would spend another 30 minutes searching throughout the surrounding area and down nearby amateur trails. After an hour of their initial searching, Joshua's parents would contact the local authorities and ask for assistance sometime around 3 in the afternoon. Within the span of about 2 hours, an army of over 150 search and rescue volunteers descended upon the park, their desperate eyes scanning every inch of the vast wilderness. The Idaho National Engineering Laboratory was beseeched by the local sheriff's department to provide aid in the form of a forward-looking infrared-equipped helicopter alongside multiple canine search teams. Leading this relentless pursuit was the indomitable Fremont County Sheriff, resolute in their commitment to unravel the mystifying disappearance of Joshua. Oddly enough, despite the expected weather forecast predicting clear skies for the following weeks, the sky would unleash an unexpected torrential downpour, washing away any semblance of hope as the search and rescue operation first began. The deluge persisted relentlessly, casting an eerie pall over the proceedings, with search and rescue volunteers complaining of impossible ground conditions, including impassable mud, washed trails, and fallen debris. Undeterred by the tempestuous onslaught, however, parents Richard and Jackie Lewis clung to their vigil, searching through the day and the night, and sleeping within the rain-swept campgrounds through the night. It would be on the following day, on the 14th of July, that a flicker of hope showed for investigators who found a piece of evidence of Joshua Lewis Karna and used canine teams to follow his scent. Although the canine teams were initially unhelpful, as they were unable to pick up any scent of the missing child within the campgrounds, they would suddenly spring into action when search and rescue approached a connecting trail and seemed to pick up the boy's scent. The elation, however, was tempered by the bewildering circumstance that Joshua had managed to evade the keen senses of dogs, ground searchers, and even aerial reconnaissance. It was as if Joshua had completely disappeared from the region and suddenly reappeared elsewhere, completely eluding the clutches of those who sought him desperately. Unveiling further layers of intrigue, a report from the Dayton Daily News left an indelible mark on the nature of this perplexing case. According to the newspaper, investigators had questioned Joshua and were unable to get any answers from him on what exactly happened before and during his strange disappearance. Fremont County Sheriff Garrett, a man well acquainted with the bizarre number of strange disappearances within the area, said that it's uncertain whether officials will ever learn what happened to Joshua and how he spent the night. The fragments of this disturbing puzzle only deepened the aura of otherworldliness that hung over the mysterious disappearance of Joshua Lewis Karna. Canines and aircraft, equipped with the most advanced technology, proved futile in their pursuit and were unable to find any sign of him. Even more bizarre, search and rescue volunteers would scan the entire area over the course of 24 hours before discovering Joshua less than 1,000 yards from the spot where he had last been seen, in an open field that should have been easily spotted by passing aircraft. It was almost as if Joshua had completely vanished from the park and then returned, while avoiding experienced search and rescue teams. Investigators had originally theorized that maybe Joshua had been taken by a passing camper, but then returned as the search and rescue operation and investigation into his disappearance grew out of proportion. But this theory was quickly dispelled when it became apparent that all roads were blocked and search and rescue volunteers were already in and around the area, making it difficult for anyone to have returned Joshua without having been spotted. To this day, investigators are unable to explain what exactly happened to Joshua and the strange series of events during his search. In early 2021, in a small town in Brazil, residents were left terrified after multiple sightings of a werewolf-like creature were reported. The creature was described as a tall, muscular humanoid with a canine-like face, long claws, and fur covering its body. The sightings were so frequent and widespread that the local government decided to impose a nighttime curfew to protect the residents. The panic was triggered by a video that went viral on social media, showing what appeared to be a werewolf walking on two legs through the streets of the town. The video was reportedly shot by a group of teenagers who were out at night and came across the creature. The footage, although blurry and shaky, shows a dark, humanoid figure walking towards the camera before disappearing into the darkness. The werewolf sightings sparked a wave of fear and speculation among the residents, with many believing that the creature was a supernatural entity or a cursed human. Some even speculated that the werewolf was a product of a government experiment gone wrong or a result of the town's proximity to a nearby military base. The local authorities were quick to respond to the situation, dispatching a team of police officers and military personnel to investigate the sightings. Oddly enough, around this same time, residents throughout Brazil reported that they witnessed teams of military officials patrolling the street at night, with one resident saying that they created a curfew so that they could hunt this creature down without being seen. However, no evidence was found to support the claims, and the team concluded that the sightings were likely a hoax or a case of mass hysteria. Despite the lack of evidence, the werewolf sightings continued, and the local government decided to impose a nighttime curfew. The curfew required all residents to be indoors by 10 in the evening, and anyone caught violating the curfew would face fines and possible imprisonment. Although the curfew was soon lifted, residents who lived close to nearby military bases said that they were certain that they had some involvement, and questioned whether something was released from one of the nearby bases, and that military officials then had to lock everyone inside their homes so that they could hunt and track it down. After the military came into the area, residents said that the werewolf sightings decreased dramatically. Legends of the werewolf date back to some of the oldest known mythologies all around the world, with accounts of attacks from shape-shifting men into dogs even being recorded in the modern day. Many of these reported encounters often overlap with similar claims of large humanoid dog-like creatures with bright red eyes known for their vicious wolf-like savagery. The 1987 Northern Michigan encounter of Luther. Back in August of 1987, the owners of a small wooden cabin claimed that their cabin had been attacked in the night by a large animal they presumed to have been a bear. Unsure of what the animal was, and needing information surrounding the vandalism to provide to insurance companies, the owners then contacted the Department of Natural Resources from Baldwin, Michigan. After waiting around for some hours, several investigators from the field office arrived at the cabin and claimed that they were interested in examining the damage to the cabin to verify the animal attacks. Several investigators from the field office arrived at the cabin and claimed that they were interested in examining the damage to the cabin to verify the animal attacks. Although the owners originally believed the large animal to have been a bear, the gathered evidence from the game warden's investigation proved that the animal scratches were not from a typical bear vandalism and was most likely something else entirely. According to the Department of Natural Resources, the tracks and the claw marks left behind at the cabin more closely matched that of a very large dog. Surrounding the cabin and near the nearby muddy pathways were footprints of large dog tracks. On the windows of the cabin were prints of equally as large muddy paws that went as high as 7 feet, and different parts of the roof of the cabin appeared to have also had evidence of muddy footprints. Additionally, closer examination showed that the frames of the windows and the doorway appeared to have been chewed in an attempt of the animal to have gained entrance to the cabin in the night, a behavior uncommon of wolves in the region. Even more peculiar, areas of the footprints seemed to reach up on the wall past 7 feet in height, meaning that the animal would have had to walk on its hind legs and be at a height exceeding 7 feet when standing. An official quote on the event is recorded as the following. Upon closer scrutiny, it was determined that the damage to the cabin had been done by a very large dog. It appeared that the animal had chewed into the wood frames of the building and the door screening in an attempt to gain entrance to the cabin. Officers found huge dog tracks all around the cabin, paw prints on the windows, and deep grooves made by a dog's teeth in the wood around the door and window. The damage inflicted was found to not be the work of an average dog, but one which was very large and capable of standing up and reaching 7 feet up to the higher window levels. It didn't take long for the story of the cabin's destruction by a large dog to have reached the nearby town, with many of the locals soon making their way up to the cabin to see the evidence of the attack for themselves. Many of the local hunters and tour guides supported the claims that the prints and the attacks had to have been made by a large dog or wolf, and that the scratch marks were atypical of a standard bear attack. Several hunters offered to hunt down the creature for the owners of the cabin, whereas others believed that an ancient dire wolf could have been the culprit. This creature has been reported in various parts of the world, but mainly in North America. It is described as a creature that has the head and upper body of a wolf and the lower body of a human. The first recorded sighting of the dogman dates back to the 1700s, when French explorers reported seeing a creature with the head of a wolf and the body of a man in what is now known as Wisconsin. However, it wasn't until the late 1980s that the term dogman was coined by a radio host in Michigan who received reports of sightings from local residents. The dogman is often described as being around 7 feet tall and weighing up to 400 pounds. It is said to have sharp teeth, glowing eyes, and the ability to move quickly and silently. Many witnesses have reported feeling a sense of intense fear when encountering the creature, leading some to speculate that it may have supernatural origins. There have been several notable encounters with the dogman in recent times. In 1987, a man named Steve Cook claimed to have had a face-to-face encounter with the creature while walking his dog in a park in Michigan. He described the creature as being around 7 feet tall and having yellow eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. As of right now, people still report encountering the creatures, leaving them terrified and questioning what it was that they encountered. Padre Pio, also known as Saint Pio of Pietrelcina, was an Italian Catholic priest and mystic who lived from 1887 to 1968. He is known for his deep devotion to God, his piety, and his supernatural gifts, including stigmata, the ability to read souls, and the gift of bilocation. Padre Pio was born Francesco Forgione in the small town of Pietrelcina, Italy. As a child, he was deeply religious and often experienced visions of Jesus and the Virgin Mary. At the age of 15, he entered the Capuchin order and took the name Pio. He was ordained a priest in 1910. In 1918, Padre Pio received the stigmata, or wounds of Christ, on his hands, feet and side. He experienced intense pain and bleeding from these wounds for the rest of his life, but considered them a great honor and a sign of God's love. Padre Pio also had the gift of bilocation, which means he could be in 2 places at once. He was known to appear to people in need, both physically and spiritually, and offer them comfort and guidance. Padre Pio was also known for his ability to read souls. He could sense people's sins and offer them absolution and advice on how to live a more spiritual life. Throughout his life, Padre Pio performed many miracles, including healing the sick. He also founded the House for the Relief of Suffering, a hospital that still operates today. Padre Pio passed away in 1968 at the age of 81. He was canonized by Pope John Paul II in 2002 and is celebrated as a saint in the Catholic Church. His legacy continues to inspire people all over the world. Padre Pio was known to have had many mystical experiences and visions throughout his life. One of the most well-known visions occurred in 1918 while he was praying in his cell. According to accounts, he experienced a vision of Jesus Christ and received the stigmata, or wounds of Christ, in his hands, feet and side. Padre Pio also reported experiencing many other visions and mystical encounters throughout his life and was known for his gift of spiritual discernment and ability to read the hearts of others. One such vision came from Jesus himself, which would cause Padre Pio to write a letter in 1959 describing what Jesus had said to him. He said that Jesus revealed these 12 messages to him about the end of the world. The world is walking in ruins. Men have abandoned the right path to venture on roads that end in the desert of violence. If they do not drink from the source of humility, charity, and love, it will be a catastrophe. Terrible things will come. I can no longer intercede for men. Divine piety is about to end. Man had been created to love life and ended up destroying life. When the world was entrusted to man, it was a garden. Man has turned it into an atmosphere full of poisons, Nothing now serves to purify the house of man. A deep work is necessary, which can only come from heaven. Prepare to live 3 days in total darkness. These 3 days are very close, and in these days they will remain as dead without eating or drinking. Then the light will return, but many will be the men who will not see it anymore. Many people will escape scared. It will run without a goal. They will say that there is salvation to the east, and people will run to the east, but it will fall on a cliff. They will say that to the west there is salvation, and people will run to the west, but they will fall into a furnace. The earth will tremble, and the panic will be great. The earth is sick. The earthquake will be like a snake. They will feel it crawling everywhere, and many stones will fall, and many men will perish. You are like ants, because the time will come when men will take their eyes off for a crumb of bread. Businesses will be looted. Warehouses will be taken in assault and destroyed. Poor will be one who in those dark days will be without a candle, without a jug of water, and without the necessary for 3 months. A land will disappear, a great land. A country will be erased forever from geographical maps, and with it history, wealth, and men will be dragged into the mud. The love of man for man has become an empty word. How can you expect Jesus to love you if you do not even love those who eat at your own table? Of the wrath of God, men of science will not be forgiven, but men of heart. I'm desperate. I do not know what to do for humanity to repent. If you continue on this path, the tremendous wrath of God will be unleashed like a tremendous thunderbolt. A meteorite will fall on the earth, and everything will shine. It will be a disaster, much worse than a war. Many things will be cancelled, and this will be one of the signs. Men will live a tragic experience. Many will be overwhelmed by the river. Many will be burned by fire. Many will be buried by poisons. But I will stay close to the pure of heart. Jesus did speak about the need for humans to change their ways. In the Christian Bible, Jesus frequently preached about repentance and turning away from sin. Many people have said that some of these messages can be interpreted in different ways, but ultimately said that they can apply to various situations throughout the modern day. Interestingly, over the years there's been a variety of mysterious religious events that have been reported, many of which leave the eyewitnesses wondering if they experienced a divine encounter. Our Lady of Zeitoun. Referred to by believers as the Our Lady of Zeitoun event, it appears that within the Zeitoun district of Cairo in Egypt, there appears to have been a mass sighting of the Virgin Mary having manifested as a ghostly apparition above the Church of the Virgin Mary in the city of Cairo. There have often been claims of Marian apparitions, of which are mass sightings of a manifested and ghostly image of the Virgin Mary appearing above churches from around the world. However, the event of Our Lady of Zeitoun continues to be one that mystifies believers and skeptics alike. This is due to the fact of the mass witnesses, evidence and numerous apparitions seen over the course of 2 to 3 years in total. Each time the apparition manifested, witnesses claimed to see the shining image of the Virgin Mary, emanating like a pure white light, and standing as a woman on the roof of the church, looking out over the area. The first sighting occurred back on the 2nd of April, in 1968, when a Muslim bus mechanic working across the street ran to the church in the fear that he had spotted a woman about to jump from the roof. It wasn't long before the police were called, and a crowd had gathered to try to figure out what was going on. The woman then began to glow a bright, blinding white light, and the police had to restrain people and hold them back to prevent them from being trampled. As the sightings continued, more and more people began to gather around the church to also confirm what had been told, only to also bear witness to the strange apparition manifesting before them and seeming to bear the resemblance and likeness to that of the Virgin Mary. Reports claim that more than 250,000 people confirmed the sightings, with several pictures being taken of the event, showing a large glowing apparition standing on the roof of the church. The Miracle of the Sun, also known as the Miracle of Fatima, was an event that occurred on October 13, 1917, in the small town of Fatima, Portugal. It is considered one of the most significant religious events of the 20th century and was witnessed by thousands of people. According to the accounts of witnesses, the Miracle of the Sun began after 3 shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos and her cousins Jacinta and Francisco Marto, reported seeing a vision of the Virgin Mary on 6 different occasions between May and October 1917. During the final apparition, which occurred on October 13, 1917, the Virgin Mary told the children that she would perform a miracle so that all people would believe in her apparitions and messages. As the crowds of onlookers gathered around the children, a sudden heavy rainstorm began. The rain stopped abruptly, and the clouds parted, revealing the sun. Witnesses reported that the sun appeared to change color and spin, moving erratically across the sky. Many people reported seeing visions, including the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ, and other saints. Others reported seeing a dancing sun, and some claimed to have witnessed miraculous healings. The event was witnessed by an estimated 100,000 people, including reporters and photographers. The phenomenon has been the subject of much debate and speculation, with some attributing the event to a natural atmospheric phenomenon known as a sundog, while others believe it was a genuine miracle. Regardless of the cause, the miracle of the sun had a profound impact on the Catholic Church and the people of Portugal, with many believers taking it as a sign of the Virgin Mary's approval of the Fatima apparitions and message of prayer, penance, and devotion to the Rosary. The controversial archaeological discovery of the Tel Dan inscription. The Tel Dan inscription is an ancient inscription discovered in 1993 during an archaeological excavation at Tel Dan in northern Israel. It is considered one of the most important and controversial archaeological discoveries in the region. The inscription consists of fragments of a stele, or stone monument, that dates back to the 9th century BCE. The stele contains an Aramaic inscription that mentions a king of Israel named House of David. This is the first known reference to the biblical King David outside of the Bible, and thus the Tel Dan inscription has significant historical and religious importance. The inscription mentions the victory of the king of Aram over the king of Israel and the king of the House of David, indicating that the kingdom of Israel was under threat from its neighbors. The Tel Dan inscription consists of 3 fragments, with the largest fragment containing 13 lines of text. The inscription is written in Aramaic, which was the language spoken in the region at the time. The text is difficult to decipher in places due to damage and missing letters, but the meaning of the inscription is generally clear. The discovery of the Tel Dan inscription has helped scholars to better understand the history of the region during the 9th century BCE, as well as the political and religious developments that were taking place at the time. The inscription provides important evidence for the existence of King David and the historical accuracy of the biblical account of his reign. Biblical archaeological discoveries are important for several reasons. Archaeological discoveries can provide evidence that supports the historical accuracy of the biblical narrative. These discoveries can help to confirm events, people, and places described in the Bible, and help to paint a more complete picture of life during biblical times. Archaeological discoveries can provide insight into the daily life, culture, and customs of ancient civilizations, including the Israelites and other peoples described in the Bible. These discoveries can help to give us a better understanding of the people and cultures that played a role in the development of biblical stories. They help to preserve our cultural heritage and history, and provide physical evidence of ancient civilizations, and help us to learn from the mistakes and successes of those who came before us. For many people, biblical archaeological discoveries have spiritual significance. They help to connect people to their religious roots and provide a tangible link to the stories, places, and people described in the Bible. Overall, biblical archaeological discoveries help us to better understand the history, culture, and religious significance of the Bible and the peoples it describes. Since the dawn of space exploration, numerous astronauts have claimed to have encountered unidentified objects while in space. Many of these sightings have been dismissed by skeptics as mere hallucinations or reflections of light, but others remain unexplained, and have left some wondering if there is more to the universe than we currently understand. One of the most famous of these encounters occurred during the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, when astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong reported seeing a strange glowing object following them as they made their way to the moon. The object appeared to be in a fixed position relative to the spacecraft, leading some to speculate that it may have been an advanced craft. Another notable encounter occurred when astronaut James McDivitt reported seeing a cylindrical object that he could not identify. The object appeared to be rotating and emitting a high-pitched sound, leading McDivitt to speculate that it may have been a spacecraft of some kind. Story Musgrave is a retired NASA astronaut who has made 6 spaceflights during his career. However, during one of those missions, he had a strange encounter that he could not explain. In 1996, Musgrave was on board the Space Shuttle Columbia on the STS-80 mission when he saw a mysterious object in space that he described as a snake. The incident occurred during a 15-day mission when Columbia was orbiting the Earth at an altitude of about 190 miles. Musgrave, who was a payload specialist on the mission, was operating a video camera to film a tether experiment, in which a 12-mile-long cable was extended from the shuttle to test the idea of using tethers to generate electricity in space. As Musgrave was filming the experiment, he noticed a strange object moving across the frame. At first, he thought it was a reflection or a lens flare, but as he zoomed in on the object, he realized it was a long, thin, serpentine object with what appeared to be lights on it. Musgrave estimated that the object was about 10 to 30 feet long and said that it appeared to be moving independently of the shuttle and the tether. He described the object as a giant, snake-like creature that was moving deliberately through space. The encounter lasted for about 10 minutes, during which time Musgrave and his crewmates tried to determine what the object was. They ruled out the possibility that it was a reflection or a lens flare, and also ruled out the possibility that it was a piece of debris or space junk, since it was moving too deliberately and too slowly. They also ruled out the possibility that it was an animal or a bird, since it was moving through the vacuum of space. The incident was captured on video, and the footage has been analysed by researchers who have suggested that the object could be an advanced craft. However, NASA officials have said that the object was probably a piece of debris or space junk, and that Musgrave and his crewmates misidentified it. Regardless of what the object actually was, Musgrave's encounter has remained one of the most intriguing and mysterious sightings ever reported by an astronaut. It is a reminder that there are still many unexplained phenomena in space, and that the universe is full of mysteries that we have yet to unravel. In 2020, Russian cosmonaut Ivan Wagner captured footage of an unidentified object from the International Space Station. The video showed a fast-moving object with a distinct shape and glowing lights passing over the Earth's atmosphere. The footage quickly gained attention from enthusiasts and skeptics alike, sparking discussions about the existence of extraterrestrial life and the possibility of advanced technologies beyond human comprehension. The object spotted by Wagner is not the first reported sighting from space. NASA astronauts have also reported seeing objects that they could not explain while on missions. The subject of mysterious aircrafts in space has long been a topic of interest and debate among the scientific community and the general public. Despite the compelling nature of the Wagner footage, skeptics argue that the object could have been a satellite, a piece of space debris, or a natural phenomenon such as a meteor. However, some experts have pointed out that the object appears to have maneuvered in a way that suggests it was not simply a random piece of space debris, also noting that it hovered motionless for several minutes without moving. The Wagner sighting adds to the growing body of evidence that suggests the possibility of extraterrestrial life and advanced technologies beyond human understanding. While the scientific community has yet to provide definitive proof of such phenomena, the fascination and intrigue surrounding the topic continue to capture the public's imagination. As space exploration and technology continue to advance, it is likely that further sightings and evidence will emerge, fueling ongoing discussions and debates about the existence of extraterrestrial life and advanced civilizations. The United States National Aeronautics and Space Administration has long been a source of interest for enthusiasts. Many have wondered whether NASA has investigated sightings or encountered unexplained aerial phenomena in their missions. NASA has always maintained that it is a scientific organization focused on space exploration and has not made any formal statement on the existence of extraterrestrial life or mysterious aircrafts. However, there have been reports of NASA astronauts and officials discussing sightings of strange aircrafts and unexplained aerial phenomena. In more recent years, NASA astronauts have reported seeing unusual lights and objects while in space. In 2019, various strange objects were allegedly detected outside the International Space Station, with one user describing them as large, glowing objects that didn't match anything that was close by. Despite these reports, NASA has maintained that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial life or advanced aircrafts. While NASA has not made any formal statement on whether they have investigated sightings or unexplained aerial phenomena, some former NASA employees have spoken out about their experiences. In 2009, astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was part of the Apollo 14 mission, spoke about his belief in extraterrestrial life and the existence of a government cover-up. He claimed that NASA had been covering up evidence of advanced beings visiting Earth and said that they have been doing this for decades. As of right now, while NASA has not made any official statements on mysterious aircrafts or unexplained aerial phenomena, there have been reports of sightings and experiences by astronauts and officials. The organization's focus on scientific research and space exploration may limit its willingness to publicly discuss such topics, but the public's interest in the possibility of advanced life and aircrafts continues to be a topic of debate and fascination. Nikola Tesla, a Serbian inventor, can be considered as one of the most intriguing personalities in history due to his remarkable achievements and lasting impact. With his exceptional work, Tesla not only left a significant mark on the world, but also became an enigmatic figure that continues to captivate the minds of many. Although Tesla's accomplishments and inventions have garnered widespread attention and media coverage, there is a trove of rumors and undisclosed secrets surrounding the renowned inventor in recent times. These revelations have surfaced through letters he penned to both friends and investors, shedding light on previously unknown aspects of his life and work. The exploration of these hidden facets has provided invaluable insights into the enigmatic genius that Nikola Tesla was. His quest for advancing science and technology led him to envision a weapon of unprecedented power, a death ray capable of delivering an annihilating force to enemy targets from great distances. He envisioned the death ray as a particle beam weapon that would transmit focused energy waves over vast distances. This weapon would harness and amplify the power of electricity, directing it towards enemy aircraft, ships, or even entire armies. An interesting FBI document has been released that details Nikola Tesla did in fact create a death ray. The article reads as follows. Reference is made to the Bureau letter dated January 21, 1943, which bore a caption similar to that mentioned above. The reference letter dealt with the death, on January 7, 1943, of the famous inventor Nikola Tesla, who, as well as being the inventor of alternating current, perfected many electrical devices. He is also credited with having developed the death ray, which would safeguard any country from attack by air. On June 9, 1945, a Ralph Bergstresser of New York City furnished information of a non-specific nature, indicating that it was his belief that persons sympathetic to Russia were making an effort to secure the effects of Nikola Tesla in order to salvage therefrom any models or designs of possible military value. Mr. Bergstresser claimed that he heard that Abraham Spaney, president of the National Latex Corporation of Dover and Delaware, was the motivating influence behind this attempt to obtain Tesla's papers, which are presently held in storage at the Manhattan Storage Warehouse in New York City. Bergstresser promised to return to the New York Field Division shortly after his initial visit and furnish further and more specific information to support his claims. He was not heard from again until September 27, 1945, at which time he furnished the following additional information. He said that a boyhood chum of his from Wichita, Kansas, Buis Fitzgerald, had been Tesla's protege and one of the inventor's few confidants. According to Bergstresser, Fitzgerald, who is now an Army private stationed at Wright Field, Dayton, Ohio, is a brilliant 29-year-old scientist who spent endless hours with Tesla prior to the latter's passing, during which time Tesla explained to him secret experiments. Bergstresser stated that Fitzgerald met Tesla in November 1942, but he has been corresponding with the latter since 1935. According to the informant, Fitzgerald had developed some sort of anti-tank gun, the details of which he presented to Tesla, who made certain corrections in design and specifications to further perfect the weapon. Bergstresser related that sometime in December 1942, when Fitzgerald was attending a meeting of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, he made the acquaintance of Abraham Spanel, who became interested in Fitzgerald's gun. Spanel offered financial aid to Fitzgerald, and the two were in the closest contact with each other for a considerable period of time. Bergstresser said that Fitzgerald had lined up a deal for the purchase of the gun, but for some reason, Spinell blocked this deal by reaching top men in the company. Spinell is then reported as having obtained a job for Fitzgerald with the Higgins Shipbuilding Company in New Orleans and negotiated a contract with Fitzgerald for the purchase and manufacture of the gun in a manner which would return a percentage of the profits to Spinell. According to Bergstresser, Fitzgerald is presently working on the perfecting of Tesla's death ray, which, in Fitzgerald's opinion, is the only possible defense against offensive use by another nation of the atomic bomb. In this connection, it is noted that the New York Times of September 22, 1940, in an article entitled Science in the News by William Lawrence, science editor, states that Tesla divulged to Lawrence the fact that he had developed a death ray or teleforce, which Tesla claimed would melt airplane motors at a distance of 250 miles, so that an invisible Chinese wall would be built around a country against attack by an enemy air force. This electrical device would operate by the generation of power from a plant, a number of which might be located strategically along our coastlines, and the beam of which would melt any engine within a radius of 250 miles. Bergstresser stated that during Fitzgerald's acquaintance with Spinell, Fitzgerald had told Spinell of his associations with Tesla, and had apparently described to Spinell some of Tesla's most secret work. Bergstresser believes that Spinell, who he claims is definitely pro-Russian in attitude, is now attempting through legal procedure to secure custody of Tesla's effects, which are now held by Tesla's only heirs, one Sava Kosanovic, who is presently in Yugoslavia occupying some governmental post. Nikola Tesla, widely regarded as one of the most brilliant intellects of our time, is now recognized for his groundbreaking contributions. Although his genius was not fully appreciated during his lifetime, the years following his death have brought a newfound respect for his visionary pursuits. Tesla fearlessly delved into the realm of electricity, exploring its potential and pioneering advancements, such as anti-gravity technology and the enigmatic concept of the ether. Similar to many other influential thinkers from the past, Tesla's profound impact on modern-day life often goes unnoticed by contemporary audiences. It is through his extraordinary intellect that the world has witnessed groundbreaking inventions like electricity, radar, microwaves, radio, drones, and countless other remarkable advancements. Undoubtedly, Tesla epitomizes a man whose genius was destined for a different era. Tesla embraced an ancient mystical concept called the ether, which he discussed extensively, and believed he could harness its powers to shape a future filled with extraordinary devices, transforming humanity's capabilities. This led to a well-known quote attributed to Nikola Tesla, wherein he envisioned a world where wireless communication would turn the entire Earth into a vast interconnected network, allowing instantaneous communication and vivid visual and auditory experiences between people no matter the distance. Furthermore, he envisioned handheld devices that could enable these remarkable interactions. The inventor is often associated with a fascinating invention known as his oscillating machine. It has been said that this machine had the capability to create small earthquakes in its surrounding area. Interestingly, it was observed that the machine's power would gradually increase the longer it was left turned on. While some argue that these reports are exaggerated, there is a recorded event from 1912 where a journalist interviewed Tesla, and he provided a detailed description of his initial testing of the machine in practical terms. According to the inventor himself, Tesla had brought a small version of his oscillating device, no larger than an alarm clock, and attached the device to the steel framework of a building still undergoing construction. After adjusting the oscillator, the building began to tremble, and the structure quickly came down, with many believing that an earthquake had just occurred. The police had been called shortly after, as an investigation quickly began, causing Tesla to quickly retrieve his device and leaving shortly after. Although many now believe that the story was made up by Nikola Tesla for nothing more than additional media attention, others disagree given the fact that, theoretically, if an oscillating device could match the resonance frequency of an object, it could begin to cause it to vibrate and tear apart similar to that of a violin shattering a crystal glass. Today, there are no surviving mechanisms of such a device, though researchers are now well aware of a phenomenon known as resonance frequency, in which any element can be broken down when subjected to certain frequencies and vibrations. Many have called Tesla the unsung hero of modern science and technology. Nikola Tesla, a brilliant Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, and visionary genius, is often overshadowed in popular history by his contemporaries like Thomas Edison. However, Tesla's contributions to science and technology were profound and far-reaching, laying the foundation for many of the innovations that define our modern world. One of Tesla's most significant contributions to the world was his development of the alternating current electrical system. In the late 19th century, the battle between AC and direct current was fierce, with Thomas Edison promoting DC as the standard for electrical distribution. Tesla's insight and innovation led to the successful implementation of the AC system, which revolutionized the generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. AC proved to be far more efficient than DC for long-distance power transmission, enabling the construction of vast electrical grids that could bring electricity to homes, businesses, and industries. Tesla's work on AC power laid the foundation for the modern electrical grid, which is essential for our society's functioning. Tesla's brilliance extended beyond electricity to the realm of wireless communication. His pioneering work on radio transmission and wireless telegraphy laid the groundwork for modern radio technology. While Guglielmo Marconi is often credited with inventing the radio, it was Tesla who first demonstrated the transmission of radio waves across long distances in the 1890s. Tesla's contributions to wireless communication also extended to the development of remote control technology. His inventions and ideas paved the way for innovations in telecommunication, navigation, and even the development of modern smartphones. Tesla is also known for the invention of the Tesla coil, a device that generates high-frequency electrical currents. This invention had a profound impact on various scientific and technological fields, from early X-ray technology to the advancement of wireless power transmission. The Tesla coil's ability to produce high-voltage, low-current electricity made it invaluable for scientific experimentation. It allowed for the study of electrical phenomena and laid the foundation for innovations in medical imaging, radio transmission, and even the development of modern radar systems. Tesla's inventive mind was not limited to electricity and wireless communication. He made groundbreaking contributions to the development of electrical machines and motors. His invention of the polyphase alternating current induction motor transformed industries by providing a more efficient and reliable way to convert electrical energy into mechanical work. Tesla's motors played a pivotal role in the industrialization of the United States and beyond, powering everything from manufacturing plants to transportation systems. His ideas and inventions in this field continue to shape modern machinery, transportation, and manufacturing processes. Beyond his numerous inventions, Nikola Tesla was a visionary who had ideas that transcended the technological capabilities of his era. He envisioned a world where wireless power transmission would eliminate the need for power lines, a concept that is still being explored today. He also proposed the development of renewable energy sources, such as harnessing power from the sun, long before they became practical. Tesla's commitment to the betterment of humanity is evident in his desire to provide access to free energy for all. He believed that the equitable distribution of energy resources would alleviate global inequalities and contribute to a more sustainable world. Nikola Tesla's importance extends far beyond his lifetime, and his inventions and ideas continue to shape the world we live in today. The AC electrical system he championed powers our homes, industries, and technology. The radio technology he pioneered is a cornerstone of modern communication. His high-frequency electrical research has led to advancements in various fields, including medical imaging and telecommunications. Tesla's legacy also endures in the minds of innovators, scientists, and engineers who draw inspiration from his work. His unconventional thinking and willingness to challenge established norms have encouraged generations of thinkers to push the boundaries of scientific discovery and technological innovation. So, what do you make of this interesting document? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.